Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to what we've been waiting for 3 years, the return to Montreal and race day at the Canadian Grand Prix for this year's 2022 edition of the race here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal, and I cannot wait for this Grand Prix. This is probably the most excited I have been for a race so far this season by quite a distance because of the grid we have and because this track is known for good racing and for some very exciting races in the past, and it's probably the best track we've been to for racing so far this season. So hopefully with these cars that can follow better, we are in for a classic in Montreal. I can say that it is very hot, very sunny. There is barely a cloud in the sky, so no worries about the weather today. And hopefully it will be a fantastic Grand Prix in Montreal. Such a big crowd as well. Great to see the people from Montreal and Canada attending this race in such great numbers. And hopefully you guys in the chat, hello to you by the way. Hopefully everyone watching, you will join me today in watching along what could be the best race of the season so far. If you can't watch the session though, then just listen or watch along. Or watch my stream, and I'll make sure to keep you up to date with everything that goes on in today's 2022 Canadian Grand Prix. And hopefully, no matter what time it is in your part of the world, you're all having a good day. I know for some of you, it's early in the morning. For a lot of you, it's, in the evening or in the afternoon if you're from North America. So yeah, hopefully you're all doing well and you're all excited for what's going to happen here in Montreal. Now, before we get into talking about how most likely, it's going to play out today, let's first get into the results of qualifying yesterday and get into the reasons I say that we have a very exciting grid here. So Max Verstappen will start on pole position here in Canada. It's his first pole position in Montreal, and it's Red Bull's first pole position in 9 years here in Canada. Fernando Alonso starts second. That's his first front row first front row since Germany 2012. And that day, Fernando ended up winning the Grand Prix. If that happened today, probably would be his greatest drive to date in his brilliant Formula One career. Carlos Sainz will line up in third. Also, his best qualifying result ever here in Canada. Lewis Hamilton is fourth on the grid, and then you've got Magnussen fifth, Schumacher sixth for the Haas team, Ocon is seventh, and then it's Russell eighth, Ricciardo ninth, and Zhou Guan Yu in 10th place. And then the rest of the order is Valtteri Bottas 11th, Alex Albon 12th, Perez 13th, Norris 14th, Leclerc qualified 15th, but he will start 19th with Yuki Tsunoda in 20th place. So in 15th it'll be Gasly, 16th Vettel, 17th Stroll, 18th Latifi, 19th it'll be Leclerc, and like I said, 20th, and at the back it will be Yuki Tsunoda. But yeah, definitely from like third, because I do expect Carlos Sainz, as I'll get into in a moment, I do expect Sainz to beat Alonso today because the Ferrari is definitely quicker. Really, from third all the way to the back of the field, it's going to be a massive fight, and it's not going to be separated by that much in terms of time by the end of the Grand Prix. It is going to be a fantastic race here in Canada, and hopefully it does live up to the least of my expectations, this Grand Prix. Now I'll switch on to these pictures. By the way, these pictures are the pictures that will take you through today's Grand Prix. I know they are the same ones from yesterday, but yeah, I thought it'd be better to show the cars in dry conditions rather than the wet, considering that it is dry for this Grand Prix. So yeah, that's why I'm showing these pictures that I showed yesterday, and we are, 25 minutes away from the beginning of this Grand Prix, or the formation lap. So let's get into the different battles today in the field. So, starting at the very front, Max Verstappen is the clear favourite to win today, as long as he maintains the lead on the first lap, and if Sainz cannot make any headway on, passing Alonso for second, then I think Max Verstappen, unless something goes really wrong for him, I think Max Verstappen is going to win relatively comfortably in this Grand Prix today. And also, even if, let's say, Carlos Sainz gets up to second and can stick close to Verstappen, the Red Bull is going to be pretty much impossible to pass in a straight line because of the immense straight line speed that the Red Bull does have. And the Red Bull is by far the best car in the final sector here in Montreal. So, yeah, I would be surprised, honestly, if Verstappen didn't win. If he does win this weekend, this will be probably the knockout blow for Ferrari and Leclerc in the championship fight. I know people will still say that there's still so long to go, but it really would take a lot of luck and a miracle, really, for Ferrari and Leclerc to somehow win the World Championship. So, yeah, Max Verstappen is very close here to... Martin Brundle's having an absolute mare, by the way, on his grid walk. Yeah, Max Verstappen, he's on the verge of, solidifying a very comfortable lead in the championship going forward for the rest of the season. Fernando Alonso, I mean, if he can win, obviously, that'd be amazing. It would be such an emotional victory because his last win was in 2013, May 2013, by the way. So, 9 years and a month it has been since Alonso's last win. And, yeah, it would be absolutely incredible if he did win the Grand Prix. But most likely, I think Alonso will finish third. Alonso has had great pace all weekend, but I don't think he has quite the pace of Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Sainz, though, we know, so far this season, is prone to making mistakes. Obviously, in Spain, made quite a simple one. Obviously, so did Verstappen, but Sainz's pace after his mistake wasn't exactly stunning. So, yeah, Sainz, I think... he should beat Alonso, and Sainz should finish in second place, but I don't think it is absolutely guaranteed because of Sainz's form this season. And obviously in Australia, on lap 2, lap 3, Carlos made a pretty pathetic mistake in Melbourne in retiring from that Grand Prix. But yeah, I think most likely it'll be Max Verstappen winning, Carlos Sainz second. And then the battle for the podium will be, I think, between Alonso, Hamilton, or the final podium place, will be between Alonso, Hamilton, and maybe Perez and Leclerc. But I don't think Perez and Leclerc will make their way through the field as quickly as people expect. I'd be very surprised if Perez was already up to 5th or 6th by, before midway through the Grand Prix. I think it'll be pretty tough for that to happen. So, yeah. I mean, I still think Perez and Leclerc, by the way, will finish 5th and 6th, respectively. But, yeah, I just think it'll be a bit tough for them to get properly close to, say, Alonso and Hamilton in the Grand Prix, really, until the end, if they do get close enough to those two. But the reason I think Fernando Alonso will finish third is because I just think, if you look at this weekend, Fernando has been so quick. Let me just trying to speed up the how fast the pictures are moving, so I've just redone it there. What do you call it? Yeah, with how quick Fernando has been this weekend, I just don't see how, if he keeps up his level of performance, I don't see him having a massive drop off. Also, if you look at the race pace from Friday that I actually did show in my race preview, which obviously was a couple hours ago, Alonso's pace on the hard compound tyre was as good, his average lap time was as good as Verstappen on the medium. So I am very curious to see what Alonso does in terms of tyre choice, because obviously he only used a hard compound tyre for his long fuel run on Friday. So it'd be very interesting to see what he decides to do. I do think the hard compound tyre in this heat, and with the track being at a lower grip, and probably going to wear the tyres out a bit more than what would be normal, I think the hard compound tyre is going to be a good tyre today. Also because the tyres obviously are the softest in the range, C5, C4, C3. So the C3 will be a pretty good tyre for the race here. So yeah, I think Alonso, with his pace and how it looked, his race pace also on Friday, I think will finish in third. Lewis Hamilton in fourth, I think will have also good pace, but I just don't think it will be good enough. And also the Mercedes, I don't think is quick enough to pass the Alpine of Alonso down the straight. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. But if Lewis does finish fourth, that's a pretty good result still, considering after Friday, he was moaning, and rightfully so, about how bad the car was. He was moaning about just the car being so bad. I think that's what he said with his quote there. So, yeah, what do you call it? Yeah, good that he's up in fourth place for Mercedes. But, yeah, I'm hoping that we get at least an Alonso podium today, because considering how hard he has worked in this Grand Prix weekend and how well he's driven, it would be, I think, the best result and the right result, a podium finish for him from this Grand Prix. Yeah, hopefully he gets that today. And then, I think Perez, so it'll be Hamilton fourth, and then Perez fifth, Leclerc sixth. And then after that, the rest of the top 10, I think it'll be Russell, Ocon, and then Ricciardo and probably Vettel completing the top 10. For Russell and Ocon, I think Russell will have decent pace today, but not enough really to keep up that top 5 result record in the Grand Prix so far this season. If he keeps it up today, then it just shows you just how great of a driver he is and how great of a season that he is having. But I'd be surprised if he could. The two Haas obviously are starting 5th and 6th. Great qualifying they had. I don't think they'll stay there, because if you look at practice 2 on Friday, Haas were very, very slow. I think they were 14th and 15th. They were a lot slower than where their position is on the grid. So I think they're the most likely team to drop back through the field. Also, Alfa Romeo starting 10th and 11th, I think, are pretty likely to drop back as well. So, yeah, it's for those two teams, despite their great qualifying, it's not looking great. But, yeah, I think with Russell, I think he'll finish in 7th. But because Perez and Leclerc will probably come through the field and beat him, I think I don't think he'll be able to get a top 5. Ocon should get a top 8 at the absolute worst. The Alpine is pretty quick this weekend, 3rd or 4th quickest car overall. And then Ricciardo obviously did a good job in qualifying to get 9th. He should finish in the points despite Perez and Leclerc coming through the field and probably passing him. So he should still do pretty well, but it won't be a massive load of points. And yes, Sebastian Vettel, obviously starting 16th, qualified 17th yesterday. Sebastian will definitely come through and get, I think, a top 10 in this Grand Prix. The reason I think that's because if you look at his pace on Friday or in the single lap runs, I think he was 4th in practice 2, and also in the long runs, Vettel was lapping as quickly as the Mercedes drivers. So, yeah, he's got the pace absolutely to be right up there, has Sebastian Vettel. So, yeah, hopefully he comes through. Also, you've got, Gasly and Norris down there who, you never know, they could come up and nick a couple points, but I don't think they will. But, yeah, it's going to be a great Grand Prix. We're going to have lots of overtaking, swapping of positions. Like I said, the Haas and the Alfa Romeo cars, I think, will go down the order, and then obviously Perez, Leclerc, Norris, Gasly, Vettel, Stroll will probably progress their way up the field. So yeah, it's going to be a very exciting Grand Prix, and especially if Fernando Alonso gets into the lead on the first lap, it will make things very exciting indeed. But for everyone watching, with 15 minutes to go here in Canada, before the race or the formation lap begins, let me know, guys, for everyone watching right now, let me know in the live chat, what are your final predictions for the Grand Prix today? Give me your top 5 or top 10 if you want, but yeah, at least give me your top 5. And I'll read out as many comments in regards to that as I can before we get, properly underway here in Canada. For me, I'll go with my top 10. So I've already kind of said it, but I'll read it out anyway. So I think Max will win. Sainz second, Alonso third, Hamilton fourth, Perez fifth, Leclerc sixth, and then Russell seventh, Ocon eighth, Ricciardo ninth, Vettel 10th. That's what I think the top 10 will be. But yeah, let me know in the chat. Do you agree? Disagree? Yeah, let me know. And I'll read out your predictions before we get going. But before we get into that, and also some final little stats before we get properly into the Grand Prix, just want to say that don't forget, guys, the race reaction, obviously taking place after the Grand Prix, will start as soon as the race finishes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to probably, just after the race finishes, rename the stream and just, take off where it says Watchalong and put reaction instead. So you don't need to worry about me, disappearing for 45 minutes and then coming back again with a race reaction, because I will just continue the stream and do the reaction straight away. And I've got stuff ready for that as well. And also, I will be live tomorrow night as well to review any of the key events of this Grand Prix at 8 p.m. UK time. So make sure to, keep on with this stream until the race reaction, because we've got plenty heading your way. And as well, make sure to come along to that stream tomorrow night to hear a bit more in depth as to what happened in the Grand Prix on Sunday. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because we do race watch-alongs and qualifying watch-alongs for every Grand Prix this season. So yeah, subscribe on the bottom right of the screen. You can do it there. And for everyone watching, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But let me just read out some comments quick. Best Chaza for a wonderful broadcast and race. Happy Father's Day to all. Indeed. And yeah, hello to everyone, by the way, watching and in chat as well. Music Monster Man asks, what is a reasonable result for Alonso? Can they maintain podium finish? I think they can. I think the pace is absolutely there. But I think a reasonable result would be probably 5th at worst. I think if he dropped any lower than that, then it would probably be a disappointing result, considering the pace he's had this weekend. And let's read out a couple predictions. By the way, hello to Chase in the chat, who says, been a while, what's up? It's all good. Hopefully you're good as well. So Lab Gorilla says that he thinks it'll be Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Sainz, Russell. Hello, by the way, to Brabham Oz. Aline says Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Vettel, Perez. G Walker says Max, Perez, Alonso, Sainz, Russell. I think most likely, as I've said, coming into this weekend and through the weekend, Verstappen is absolutely the clear favourite for the win today. And just trying to have a look at Twitter quickly to see if there's any news I can bring you. Don't think so. But anyway, Brabham says, I think the Haas's will go backwards pretty badly. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a shame for them, because obviously the result in qualifying was amazing. Their best result of the season so far. But yeah, it's not going to mean anything, unfortunately, due to the conditions. What they need to hope for is that they can have enough straight line speed to keep the pack behind for long enough. But also, secondly, they need to hope that there are some retirements today of some of the cars that would finish in the points. And then maybe they could nick a couple points for themselves. But yeah, I will admit, it's not looking absolutely fantastic for the race. Despite a great grid position, it's going to be very hard for Haas to get a point here. As just seeing Max Verstappen just come back from the toilet break. And he's just being interviewed by Sky. He's about to be interviewed by Canal Plus as well. Charles Leclerc getting ready and obviously starting the race from 19th on the grid. And I'll be very interested to see, as Ted Kravitz is stood directly opposite Leclerc, opposite the car. And, yeah, what was I going to say? I'll be very interested to see what tyres they all start on, because I think we're going to get some differences in there. I think we will get probably 2 or 3 people on the soft tyres, people out of position trying to make up ground. And I think Charles Leclerc will be one of them. But I think we will also get some hard tyre runners in there who will look to gamble on the hard being the tyre for the race, which I think it will be. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what the tyre situation looks like for the start of the race. And obviously, when I get up my graphics for the race, I will, to the best of my abilities, be getting up the graphics as well for, or the information rather, for who is on what tyre for the Grand Prix here in Canada. But I'd say mostly I expect it to be the drivers starting on the medium compound, I think. I think that's most likely the compound that they'll start on, because it'll be soft enough to give enough grip on the first couple of laps to make moves. And secondly, it'll last a bit longer than the soft compound, the C5, which I think will probably be done after about 15 to 20 laps. Yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. But I think with 7.5 minutes to go, I may as well now get into some final stats ahead of this Grand Prix. We'll start with Red Bull. Red Bull, obviously on pole position today. Their last win in Canada was in 2014 with Daniel Ricciardo. Max Verstappen has only had 1 podium out of 5 races in Canada, that being in 2018. And that podium was pretty much the turning point of his career. And he hasn't looked back since. And obviously since then, much more pole positions, victories, a championship, and is heading probably for a second world title as well. Red Bull also have won twice in Canada since 2010, both victories being 2013 and 2014. So, yeah, Red Bull haven't in recent years had a great record here, but the only reason that is because they never had a car in the earlier part of the V6 hybrid era that was any good around here. So that's why they're a lot better this weekend. Ferrari have had better recent history around this track. Their last win in Canada was in 2018 with Sebastian Vettel. 2019 they should have won, but it wasn't to be because of a penalty. Ferrari, though, with that win in 2018, that's their only win in Canada since 2010. And actually, so that win in 2018 was the last win. To go back to their previous win in Canada, you'd have to go all the way back to 2004. They did used to dominate this Grand Prix in the late 90s and early 2000s, but yeah, since 2004, only 1 win in Canada. Pretty poor, if you ask me. But yeah, they have been recently pretty quick here in Canada, but have blown a couple good opportunities to win the Canadian Grand Prix. And for Mercedes, even though they've not got a great grid position or great car, they did win the previous race here in Montreal in 2019 with Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton has won the Canadian Grand Prix 7 times since 2007. Obviously, this was his first ever win in Formula 1, and he's gone on to win, well, an absolute ton of Grand Prix since. And yeah, Mercedes have also won the Canadian Grand Prix 4 times since 2010, obviously that during their dominance period. But yeah, they've got a pretty good grid position, 4th and 8th, so you never know what could happen today, especially if they get a bit of luck in this Grand Prix. And finally, just so you guys know how important this Grand Prix is, let's get into the championship standing. So Max Verstappen leading by 21 points from Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc third and 34 points behind. And if Verstappen wins and Leclerc does not get a podium, then, well, it's going to be an absolutely massive gap by the end of this Grand Prix. But honestly, if Verstappen does win this Grand Prix, then I think the championship is most likely over, and it's Max's pretty much for the 2022 season. Yeah, Perez second, Leclerc third, and then Russell is fourth, point off of 100 points, and not even that far behind Charles Leclerc in the Drivers' Championships. Shows you how great Russell has been, but how poor Ferrari have been. For Russell to only be that many points behind in the driver's standings. And then Carlos Sainz is fifth. He'll hope to go up to fourth finally in the championship. Lewis Hamilton is sixth, and then it's Norris seventh, Bottas eighth, Ocon ninth, and Gasly 10th. And if Alonso does get a podium today, he'll probably go third. Not third in the championship, 10th, sorry. And in the constructors' standings, Red Bull are 80 points clear of Ferraris, pretty much already dead and buried. And considering Verstappen on pole, yeah, I'd say Red Bull have got the Constructors' Championship pretty much wrapped up. Ferrari are in second, only 38 points clear of Mercedes in third. McLaren are fourth, but Alpine, if they can translate this grid position into points, they could be very close to McLaren, if not ahead of them, by the end of the Grand Prix. Alfa Romeo 6th, AlphaTauri 7th, Haas and Aston Martin level on 15 points for 8th and 9th. I would expect Aston Martin, really, to overtake Haas either at the end of this Grand Prix or by the next Grand Prix. So those are the championship standings going into this Grand Prix. Obviously, not 30 minutes to go. There's only about 2 or 3 minutes to go until the Grand Prix begins. So let me get my graphics ready. There's your starting grid on the left-hand side. I'll read it out in a moment. Just readjust these pictures. And let me as well just get the lap counter stuff ready as well. So it will be a 70-lap Grand Prix, which sounds a lot, but it's going to be a 1 minute 15-16 lap for the front runners. So it's not going to be, if there's no safety cars, it's not going to actually be that long of a Grand Prix. And yeah, there you go. Yeah, race or formation lap will be underway momentarily, but let me read out quickly the starting grid here in Canada. Max Verstappen on pole, Fernando Alonso second, and then it's Sainz and Hamilton on the second row, Magnussen and Schumacher for Haas locking out the third row, Ocon and Russell are on the fourth row, and then it's Ricciardo and Zhou Guanyu completing the top 10, then Bottas 11th, Albon 12th, Perez 13th, Norris 14th, Gasly 15th, Vettel 16th, Stroll 17th, Latifi 18th, 19th is Charles Leclerc, and 20th is Yuki Tsunoda. Obviously, Leclerc and Tsunoda both have engine penalties, and that's why they start at the very back of the grid. So, yeah, we wait now for the formation lap, which will be starting in a couple minutes' time. As Rook asks, what's the pit stop time loss? Pit stop time loss around here is about 16, 17 seconds. It's the shortest, I think, of the season. So it does favour a 2-stop strategy, which I think, I mean, Sky earlier said it'll be a 1-stop strategy, but I don't think that will be the case for everyone. I think most people will have to go onto a 2-stop because the track condition is not great. And also, it's very hot. And also, most people are going to be pushing pretty hard in this Grand Prix today, so they won't have really the time to look after tyres, which will obviously hurt the drivers in this Grand Prix, because obviously in Formula 1, the goal is to do the least amount of pit stops in a Grand Prix, because obviously it loses you a bit of time. But yeah, formation lap underway in about 30, 45 seconds probably. And we'll see in a moment what tyres they're on. And as soon as I know, I'll put it in, or at least get it right for the first few laps or so. as they're just showing Fernando Alonso there. Now showing the back of the grid. Now showing Max Verstappen. And yeah, as long as Verstappen keeps Sainz from attacking him from third, obviously Sainz right behind him and Alonso from having a go, then I think Verstappen has a pretty comfortable race ahead. And Alonso is starting on the mediums. Looks like almost everyone are on the medium compound tyres. I can see the Haas, there's a Haas car there on the mediums. And the formation lap now begins. So here we go. And yeah, Max Verstappen, what tyre is he on? He's on the medium, so yeah. I might not be able to get this tyre graphic up in time to show on the first lap, but I will try my best. Yeah, according to AWS, they predict a one-stop strategy. But we'll see, as Max Verstappen is going pretty quick on this formation lap. And yeah, I'm going to try my best to get these tyres correctly, as the back of the field still not even into turn one yet. So Max Verstappen really motoring on this formation lap, because Leclerc's still at turn one and Verstappen's already at almost turn 10 now. But yeah, Charles Leclerc, I can announce, is on the hard compound tyre for Ferrari. But yeah, annoyingly they used to show what tyres everyone was starting on, but annoyingly they haven't. They did this in Baku as well, which is really annoying. But yeah, as soon as I can, I promise I'll get the tyre graphics on screen. And get ready, guys, for what is going to be a very exciting start here, as Verstappen, Alonso, Sainz are now pulling onto the grid. And Verstappen momentarily will take his place in pole position. A short run it is down to turn one, but overtaking definitely possible off the line. As there's Otmar Safnauer desperately hoping for a podium today. And yeah, confirmation that Charles Leclerc is on the hard compound tyre. And Tsunoda, I think, is on the medium at the back, as the Ferrari back there having to come to a complete stop. And Tsunoda as well, because I'm assuming they don't want to be on the grid too long because of this heat. The Leclerc is really crawling to the grid, which I have to say is not great for the engine, because once he lets go on the first lap, he wouldn't have had the greatest time on the formation lap. But Leclerc now lines up, and here we go in Montreal. Can Max Verstappen take, as he's already pointing his car towards Alonso, can he take the most important win of the season so far? 5 lights and lights out, and away we go. And Max Verstappen gets a great start. Sainz and Hamilton also get a good start. Hamilton tries to challenge, as now Magnussen, I think, is having to go around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. But it is Verstappen from Alonso, Sainz, as Magnussen going to try around the outside of Hamilton in turn 3. No, as Ocon has passed Schumacher there, I think, for 6th. And there's I think that's Daniel Ricciardo. I think Lando Norris, and I think the Williams there racing quite closely. I think Norris has had a bit of a poor start there. But Hamilton, thankfully, in 4th, holding off Kevin Magnussen, as Verstappen leads the pack away. So the top 10, it is Verstappen, Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton, Magnussen, Ocon, Schumacher, Russell, Ricciardo, Zhou. And then Bottas 11th, Perez is 12th. And then it's Albon 13th, Norris 14th, Vettel 15th, Stroll is 16th, Gasly 17th, Leclerc 18th, Tsunoda 19th, and Latifi in 20th as the pack come through. Still all very close to each other, and now they're finally showing what tyres everyone is on as we begin lap 2, and Max Verstappen leads by a second as Valtteri Bottas has lost 2 positions there. Must have made a mistake coming out the final chicane. So Bottas is down to 13th place. But yeah, let me try now and do the tyres quickly. And I believe Charles Leclerc has gained another position, I'm just seeing, in 17th place. So let me just quickly update that. So Leclerc now up to 17th. And the bottom 3 I'm seeing are on the medium tyre. The top 10 are all on the mediums. I'm just trying to get it all sorted here as we're looking at Leclerc behind, oh no, this is Carlos Sainz behind Fernando Alonso, and he's sticking pretty close to him. So already putting Fernando under pressure as they now begin lap 3 out of 70. And yeah, Sainz definitely is going to be having a go in a minute at Alonso. But here is now a replay of the race start. And yeah, Max Verstappen got a brilliant launch. Alonso got a pretty poor start, actually. Sainz kind of left his car down the inside. Alonso knew he was going to be there and held him off nicely. Kevin Magnussen, I've got to say, nice aggressive driving, but thankfully this time did not drive into Hamilton like he did in Barcelona. And that's a replay of Ocon, a fantastic move by Ocon, going round the outside of Mick Schumacher into turn 3. That's a pretty tough overtake. As it's just showing Hamilton there. As here's a replay, I think, of Bottas. And yeah, Bottas went deep and then had to go and rejoin the track just after the final chicane. And that's how he lost a couple positions. As Carlos Sainz has overtook Fernando Alonso straight away with DRS. So Sainz up to second in this Grand Prix. As I'm seeing Charles Leclerc, I think, has just overtaken. Yes, he has. Leclerc has overtaken Lance Stroll. Update that in a moment as we're on lap 4 out of 70. Max Verstappen does a fastest lap of a 1:18.8. So Leclerc is up to 16th. Let me just show that tyre graphic on screen. Ignore the retired there, by the way. That's obviously from the last time I used it. So you've got the top 10, except for Ricciardo there, on the medium. So Lewis Hamilton, by the way, right up behind Alonso. So Alpine are not really that quick right now. As I've just noticed, don't know how he's done it, but Russell has gone up to 6th. He's overtook Schumacher and Ocon in the first 4 laps, almost 4 laps. As Alonso has DRS still on Carlos Sainz, so that's keeping him nicely ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And Alonso already coming back at Sainz and pressuring the Spaniard as Max Verstappen does another new fastest lap. He's now done a 1:18.3 and is 3.3 seconds clear of Carlos Sainz. As I'm just seeing that Zhou Guan Yu is up to 9th. And the rest of the order for the moment is correct. Let me just try and get these tyre graphics correct. So Perez is on the hard tyre. And then Albon is on the medium. And then you've got Bottas and Norris on the hard. And then Vettel on the medium, as here is George Russell up the inside of Magnussen into the hairpin. Great overtake by Russell. So Russell up to 5th. Mercedes have got a very fast race car. As Alonso, by the way, is still sticking with Sainz. So Sainz is not able to run away. Sainz says he's got left front graining already, as Max does a new fastest lap. And is pulling away relentlessly from the pack behind. And Sainz, yeah, in a bit of trouble here. As Vettel and Gasly have pitted already for Aston Martin and AlphaTauri respectively. So that pushes Leclerc up to 15th. And then it should push Vettel and Gasly to the back there. Max Verstappen leading by about 3 seconds at the moment. Alonso still sticking about a second behind. As here's a replay of Zhou Guanyu passing Daniel Ricciardo. And Zhou Guanyu currently in 9th place. And then here's a replay of Russell. Brilliant move. He dummied Magnussen. Magnussen didn't see him coming until he was literally alongside him. It's a brilliant move there. As we're now looking at Charles Leclerc, black and white flag for Bottas to failing to follow race director's instructions. So that's a stern warning, essentially, from the race directors. As Carlos Sainz does the fastest lap of the race. So he is now finally getting going as Sainz. So 117.9. But yeah, the top 10 are all on the medium. Let me just update the rest. As Vettel and Gasly now are on the hard compound tyre. So the medium is not working in terms of, its tyre life is not that good right now. Which I'm not... Well, I am a bit surprised they're already into the pits that early. Here's a replay of Gasly in 20th. And and he was forced to coming into the pit. Was it, or was he already coming in? I'm not sure, but he broke very late into the final chicane. So maybe he was coming in. I'm not sure, but we're currently looking at Kevin Magnussen, who's already having to defend. Well, he's already been defending so far in this Grand Prix, and he's got Esteban Ocon all over the back of him. And Mick Schumacher, has got a bit of a train behind him of Zhou Guanyu, Daniel Ricciardo, and Sergio Perez as Magnussen comes in. And yep, the tyres, they are wearing a lot quicker than expected, as Magnussen will come in for the hard compound tyre. No, new front wing as well. I thought I saw a damaged front wing there. So Magnussen, oh, such a shame. He was doing a decent job there. So it's Ocon up to 6th. As Alonso, by the way, is still within a second of Sainz. And has still got DRS. It's keeping Alonso very much in play. So it's Ocon up to 6th. And then Schumacher 7th. Zhou 8th. Ricciardo 9th. Perez 10th. And Magnussen has dropped to last place. That is such a shame for Magnussen. Must have maybe must have clipped Lewis Hamilton or something. As who's this? It's Sergio Perez. Perez has a problem. Yeah, he's got a car problem and he's going to have to pull off and park that. And Sergio Perez is out of the Grand Prix. He's had a very bad weekend. As we're now on lap 9. And Carlos Sainz has done another fastest lap. And that might be a virtual safety car. Well, it shouldn't be. If they can just wheel it back behind the barrier, then that might only be just a yellow flag. Because it's not really in the way there. But let me update that Perez is out. So Alex Albon now is what do you call it? Alex Albon is now 10th, and virtual safety car is out. So this will help massively for teams who haven't pitted yet, and that really will hurt Vettel and Gasly down there who have already pitted. And here's a replay of what happened, and comes out of turn 6 and 7, and yeah, just no drive. A shame for Perez, but he's not had a good weekend, to be honest, so we weren't expecting anything massive from him. But, so yeah, Perez is out of action, and we'll see if anyone decides to come into the pits here. So Alex Albon into the top 10 now for Williams. Albon is actually, it says on the medium, not the hard. As Max Verstappen pits. Verstappen, can he, as Sainz goes through? So Sainz is now in the lead on lap 10 out of 70. And Alonso goes through as well, as Verstappen has put on the hard tyre. Hamilton has pitted as well. And Verstappen, I think, will come out third. He does. Now, Sainz and Alonso have track position, but Max has lost a lot less time in the pit stop phase now with pitting, but also Tsunoda and Latifi have pitted. Also, he'll be able to catch the cars ahead. Lewis Hamilton, by the way, has dropped to 6th place. It's only lap 10, and we've had already lots of stuff here. So Verstappen is now on the hard. Hamilton is on the hard compound as well. And everyone below the top 10 now is also on the hard tyre. So everyone desperate to get to the hard compound tyre. As we're still on lap 10 out of 70. Virtual safety car for Perez's car. And I'll just update that Sergio Perez is out of the Grand Prix there. So the only drivers that haven't pitted and are on mediums, which is definitely the worst tyre to be on, is Sainz, Alonso, Russell, Ocon, Schumacher, Zhou, Ricardo, Albon. And Sainz and Alonso now begin lap 11. But Max now, because Max is lost probably only like 8 or 9 seconds pitting. I mean, Max is only about 4.5 seconds behind Alonso. Max will now catch very quickly these two. So these two need to get a move on and try, if they can, to push this stint out to at least lap 15, which is 4 laps away. But in this Grand Prix, that feels an eternity with the amount that's happened so far. As we're looking now at Schumacher and Zhou, as Lewis Hamilton, by the way, is right behind Esteban Ocon. Obviously, he pitted as well, so I'm expecting Hamilton to make a move. Also, Lewis Hamilton, let's watch out for him because he will benefit massively as well from that pit stop. And that could help him get a podium later. As Zhou is all over the back of Schumacher. A Haas struggling for pace here. I wouldn't be surprised if a move was made. Here comes Lewis Hamilton on Esteban Ocon down to the final chicane. Ocon defends. Hamilton, will he go around the outside? No. He'll have to do a switchback through the exit, and surely Ocon cannot defend this, as Ocon will defend again down the inside. Hamilton round the outside, and Lewis Hamilton is up to 5th place. And Hamilton now, his next target is Russell, who, if he comes up behind him quickly, then surely they're going to tell Russell to get out of the way. Max Verstappen, by the way, has taken at least a second out of Alonso ahead of him. So Max very quick on the hard compound tyre. as Hamilton on the hard is up to 5th. And there's a massive train, by the way, not really surprised, behind Alex Albon, who is the lowest person down in the order who hasn't pitted and is on the medium, which is definitely not coping well in these hot conditions. As here is Zhou Guanyu, and his onboard is glitching quite a bit, but now it's up to speed. As we're on lap 13 now, and Carlos Sainz has just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But yeah, it's very close to field, as Verstappen now does the fastest lap of 1:17.3. I don't know how much quicker that is than Sainz, but it was a bit, well, it was quite a bit quicker than Sainz. And yeah, now it is starting to settle down, as I've just noticed that Vettel and Gasly have passed Latifi. The Latifi down to 18th. And if you're just joining us, Sergio Perez retired with an engine problem, by the looks of it. As here is Charles Leclerc behind Norris. And this is exactly why I said I don't think Leclerc is going to be able to make his way through the field that quick, because he's now stuck in a DRS train. And the Ferrari isn't quick enough to break it, unless Bottas can start passing Albon in a minute, which it looks as though it could happen. But they're all on the hard tyre, everyone below the top 10 right now, as Verstappen is now only a 1.5 seconds behind Alonso, as Bottas is now having a go at Albon. And Albon defends as Leclerc passes Norris. Norris didn't even try to defend, which was not great there, but understandable considering he's much faster and Norris doesn't need to lose the time there. As Max Verstappen is now, just closing in now on Alonso, and he will very soon be... Yeah, he's going to very soon be within a second of Alonso and be able to use the DRS. Maybe at the end of lap 14 going into 15. As now Bottas and Leclerc right up behind Albon, who somehow kept his position. And yeah, what Leclerc needs is Bottas to pass Albon, because then Leclerc will be able to pass Albon pretty quickly, and then it shouldn't be too long after where Leclerc passes Bottas, as Max Verstappen is 0.6 of a second now behind Alonso, so he will pass Alonso probably. Now we're on lap 15, he will probably pass him on this lap. So, well, it's up to Ferrari and Alpine now. Do they pit or do they stay out? As Leclerc and Bottas, both of them, cannot make headway on Williams. Carlos Sainz, by the way, leads by 5.2 seconds. And the longer Verstappen is stuck behind Alonso, the more chance it gives Ferrari to win with Carlos Sainz. Here is, though, Max Verstappen between turns 7 and 8, and he has DRS, and yeah, an overtake here is going to happen on the back straight going into the final chicane. Max, much faster car, and you'd have to say that the tyres, those hard compound tyres, are definitely much better than Alonso's. And yeah, Verstappen is going to get this move done as they exit turn 10 now. Max Verstappen will now overtake Fernando Alonso, and Alonso doesn't even try and defend. So Max Verstappen is now second and has about 5.5 seconds now to catch Carlos Sainz. As we're now on lap 16. And what Verstappen needs to do, as I think Valtteri Bottas have another go at Alex Albon. Can Bottas get the move done? Nope, as Leclerc was a bit further back on that lap. What Verstappen needs to do is pass Sainz before his pit stop to make this strategy work. But what Sainz needs to do is really to stay ahead for as long as possible and stay out on track. And then when he comes in, he will then close in on Verstappen with fresher tyres once he pits. And Verstappen has done a very quick first sector for Red Bull. And Leclerc and Bottas stuck behind Albon, and Leclerc at the minute is about a pit stop away from a podium at the minute. So Leclerc's strategy really is not working here. I mean, to be honest, given how the tyres are performing, I think it was probably the right decision that I wasn't making the decisions for them, because I said they should start on the soft, and I think they would have died after about 10 laps, probably 5 laps. As we're now on lap 17, and Bottas will have another go at Albon. Can Albon hold him back? Not sure he can. No, he can just about. This is such a good defensive performance, and he's got to do this, Albon, because he's on the worst tyre, but he's got to stretch the stint out. As Max Verstappen, by the way, on that lap was about half a second quicker than Carlos Sainz, as he does yet another purple sector 1, as we have an almighty train behind Albon of Bottas, Leclerc, Norris and Stroll. Zhou Guanyu, by the way, is still stuck behind Mick Schumacher and has DRS on him pretty much every time, and also Ricciardo is just over a second behind Zhou. But yeah, this is really destroying Leclerc's race. He's losing probably to the leaders, probably 2 to 3 seconds a lap at this point, which is why I say, or why I said that he wouldn't be really getting a great result out of this Grand Prix due to the traffic, as Bottas now is forcing Albon into a defensive position to turn 10. And surely we'll get a much better exit from turn 10, the hairpin, and will make a move. And yes, Bottas is going to do so. And Valtteri Bottas overtakes Alex Albon. So Bottas, Albon had a go at him, but couldn't get it done, as Leclerc now will overtake him as well. And I don't think Albon is going to defend this, and he doesn't. So Bottas is up to 10th, and Leclerc is up to 11th. And it might be worth thinking with Williams about a pit stop, because I think he, with all the defensive driving he's done, he's got to be close to the cliff with those tyres. So let me just update the tyre situation. Albon down to 12th on those medium compound tyres. And yeah, Bottas forced Albon into a defensive move into the hairpin, and that's what allowed Bottas to then overtake him down the straight. Albon still had to go into the braking zone of the final chicane, but actually that was the wrong decision, because it put him out of place and gave Charles Leclerc the best chance to overtake, as Verstappen has took another half a second out of Carlos Sainz. Got to say though, Sainz's pace on the medium, we saw this on Friday, his pace on the medium, pretty good. If he can stay out there, Sainz, until Max gets, say, within a second of him and then pits, Sainz might be able to do a one-stop race. Not sure Verstappen will be able to do the same, because obviously Max pitted quite early, as Alex Albon now goes onto the hard. So Albon will drop to, as Magnussen is up to 18th. Now Albon will drop to, I think, 17th on... yeah, he just about has, as Zhou Guanyu down to turn 8. Great move by the Chinese driver, as Mick Schumacher's gone deep. Has he got a problem with his car? Yes, he must have. He does. Mick Schumacher must have a problem with his car. They're not showing it, or they're not showing him, as now Leclerc's all over the back, as that's going to cause another virtual safety car. That Mick Schumacher, it appears, is out of the race. That's such a shame because he was doing so well defending what was 7th place. As now Russell pits. As now, virtual safety car. And Russell pits for the hard compound tyre. Where is Carlos Sainz? Sainz has already passed the pits. That's a shame. If the virtual safety car, though, is still out when he comes to the pit lane next, Sainz should pit. As Ocon, Zhou, and Ricciardo, who are also on the mediums, have pitted. So it's Sainz, Verstappen, Alonso. Hamilton is at now in 4th. Russell is 5th. So Mercedes really heading for a great result here. And they've got a great strategy which could see them on the podium later, possibly. As Ocon has pitted and lost nothing. He's still in 6th. Valtteri Bottas is 7th now. And then you've got Leclerc in 8th. As Ricciardo, no, that's Lando Norris, doesn't look as though he's had the quickest stop there. Lance Stroll is up to 9th. And then you've got Zhou in 10th. Let me just put Mick Schumacher all the way down because obviously he is out of the race. And here's a replay of Mick. And his car seemed fine. And then just going into the braking zone, it just stopped. Or just, cut power. So, yeah. Obviously we saw in Baku, with the heat there, the Ferrari-powered cars did not get on well whatsoever. As Carlos Sainz has pitted. And Sainz is now, it's now green flag conditions. It's only just gone green flag. And Sainz just comes out ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So Sainz is now right behind Alonso and is 3rd. But now Sainz should have the fresher tyres and should be able to now get back after Max Verstappen. This is going to be a good 50 laps or so in the fight for victory. So Max Verstappen now leading, Alonso 2nd, Sainz 3rd, Hamilton is 4th, all over the back of Sainz. And then as Hamilton forcing Sainz to defend here, Hamilton very quick on this tyre. But surely Sainz is going to pull away soon. But just need to update the rest of the order quickly. You've got Tsunoda 11th, Ricciardo 12th, then Gasly is now up to 13th. Vettel is 14th. And then you've got Kevin Magnussen 15th. And then Albon, Latifi 16th and 17th. Norris is 18th and now on the medium compound is Lando. As we're now on lap 22 and Hamilton still in the Mercedes sticking pretty close to the back of Carlos Sainz. And if he can keep behind, this close behind, he could, you never know, force, as Leclerc has done an absolutely amazing overtake there round the outside of Bottas into the final chicane. What a move by Charles Leclerc. But if Hamilton can keep this close and push Sainz, you never know, could push him into an engine failure. As Sainz is now within a second of Alonso, who is now starting to really struggle on that medium compound tyres. Norris has passed Latifi now. Yeah, Carlos Sainz is surely going to pass Alonso. Yeah, he's going to on the exit of turn 10. He has way more grip. And this will not be a very difficult overtake. Alonso should probably pit, I reckon. Because I don't think those tyres have really anything left. And no, he's not going to. But now Lewis Hamilton, because he's not pitted and Hamilton has... Hamilton is now all over the back of him, so he's got to pit. I think they've got to pit Alonso. They can't keep him out any longer because this is costing him too much time now. Here's a replay of Ricciardo at his pit stop. No idea what's happening. Couldn't get the tyres on quick enough. And then Lando, the reason he dropped so far low down is because he had to queue slightly. And then They didn't have the medium tyre ready for his front right tyre. That's why he dropped all the way down. And then they put the hards back on. This is reminiscent of Ferrari back in the day. What are they doing? And yeah, here's a replay of Leclerc round the outside of Bottas at the final chicane. What a move by Leclerc. That's got to be one of the best overtakes of the season so far. As Hamilton now is crawling all over the back of Alonso. And yeah, Hamilton is going to pass Alonso here for third place. And Hamilton down the inside. Alonso doesn't even try to defend. And Hamilton up to third for Mercedes. What a race. The 7-time champion and 7-time winner here in Canada is having. Right, I've got to try and do these tyre graphics because, yeah, everything's moving around at 1,000,000 miles per hour. So the top 3 on the hard, Alonso's on the medium. Everyone is on the hard compound tyre except, as Zhou Guanyu's having to go at Lance Stroll, except for Alonso and Norris. As Zhou, I think, can have another go at Stroll, possibly. No, just Stroll holding off Zhou there. But let me just update the tyres quickly. Yeah, everyone on the hard except Alonso and Norris. So what are Alpine doing then? Are they expecting the top 3 to pit again? Therefore doing a one-stop? The thing is, though, if the top 3 are going to pit again, it doesn't matter what Alonso does because they'll still beat him because they've already repassed him on fresher tyres. So it doesn't matter. I think they've got it seriously wrong there at Alpine. It should have pitted him, really, about 5 laps ago, when Sainz pitted under the virtual safety car. Don't really understand the strategy decision there, as Max Verstappen, by the way, is leading by 9.2 seconds now to Carlos Sainz. And yeah, the order on your left-hand side at the moment is the correct one. So lap 25, what a race we've had so far. This is great fun. The top 10 at the moment is Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Alonso, and then Russell, Ocon, Leclerc, Bottas, Stroll, and Zhou. Alonso, Leclerc, Bottas, Stroll, though, have not pitted. So, yeah. And by the way, George Russell will be the next man now to catch and possibly pass Fernando Alonso. I'm just seeing a comment in the live chat there saying, can't believe how bad Alpine have done Alonso here. Yeah, not sure what the strategy is here, got to say, as there's now a bit of a train forming behind Lance Stroll. Zhou has got to pass Stroll here. The thing is, which is great for Zhou's race, if he can pass Stroll here and then get after Bottas, Zhou Guanyu at the minute, because of Mick Schumacher and Sergio Perez's retirement, Zhou could be on for a 7th place finish here if he, if the strategy is good enough and he keeps it all together. So this is looking great for Alfa Romeo as Zhou closes in with DRS to Lance Stroll, but Stroll will stay ahead. And this is a good strategy, I think, with Aston Martin with Stroll staying out, because it is working for them at the minute. But not going great for Sebastian Vettel, stuck in 14th place. But he's not that far behind this pack, probably about 6 seconds behind. And really, from Ocon, who's now got Charles Leclerc all over the back of him, from Ocon 6th all the way to Albon in 16th, is about, 12, 13 seconds? Covering 10 positions, so it is so close in the midfield here. And I don't think we have a good idea still who's going to even win the race, get the podium, or even finish in the points. And we're already 27 laps in, which is exactly what you want to hear. By the way, thank you, Lab Gorilla, for that. As Carlos Sainz now does a new fastest lap of 1:17.2, but he's not catching Verstappen quick enough. Because Verstappen, I imagine we'll have to pit again. The Sainz has got to get that gap down by another 5 seconds or so at least, as Leclerc continues to have a go at Esteban Ocon. Ocon, I think what's most impressive here is Ocon has already pitted for hard tyres, so he's on much fresher tyres, yet Leclerc is all over the back of him. Shows you how much race pace Ferrari do actually have. If only he was at the front and didn't have a penalty. But, yeah, currently stuck behind Ocon. And it's, well, for the moment, settled down, but there are still some close battles out there. There's 2 cars with DRS behind Lance Stroll, Zhou Guanyu and Yuki Tsunoda. And we've got, obviously, Leclerc just a second behind Ocon as he feigns to remove down the inside, but thankfully did not actually go for it. And now, well, Ocon got a fantastic exit from the hairpin, so I'm not sure. No, don't think Leclerc's going to get a move done here unless he absolutely sends it. But he's not going to. But Ocon's driving pretty well here. And I have to stress, even though I think Alonso's strategy is a bit wonky. I think Alpine have not given him a great strategy there. At the minute, you'd have to say Alpine are heading for probably a top 6 with both cars. So it is still looking good for the team. As Leclerc continues to closely follow. As, by the way, talking of Fernando Alonso, I told you that George Russell will be the next on his case. He was 6.5 seconds behind when I said that. Now he's only 1.3 seconds behind. He's caught him very quickly, about 1.5 seconds per lap, I think. In the last few laps, as we're now on lap 29. So yeah, Russell will be the next one to have a go. And Alonso has been told to pit. So if they do a good pit stop here, Alonso will either come out, well, hopefully he'll come out 5th ahead of his teammate and Leclerc there. So Alonso comes in finally for a pit stop, and hopefully it's a good pit stop. And yes, it is. Can he get out ahead of his teammate? That is critical for Alonso's race. No, he cannot. Ocon and Leclerc pass him, so that's going to be a bit tricky now because he's going to be stuck in traffic behind Leclerc and his teammate. That's not going to help his race. And that's what I mean. Should have pitted him earlier after Ocon had made his pit stop, because then they would have come out ahead of that little fight. But Alonso, yeah, is now down to 7th. And now everyone, except for Lando Norris, is on the hard compound tyre. As Carlos Sainz has done a purple sector 2, and he's cut the gap down now to 8.4 seconds. So Sainz is closing still on Verstappen, but he needs a lot more pace because he needs to be really getting close to Verstappen when Verstappen surely pits again. I can't imagine Verstappen is going to do another 40 laps on this tyre. As Leclerc continues to hassle Ocon. And you can tell Leclerc's in that mood today where he's keen to do as many overtakes as possible and to overtake like mad. Got to say, Lewis Hamilton's pace is pretty good. He's only 14.5 seconds off the lead, which is just inside Max's pit window. And he's only 6 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. Mercedes, very quick in this race, I have to say. I do think the conditions are helping them because they do tend to keep their tyres quite cool, or a lot cooler than others. That's definitely helping their pace because now, well, Hamilton has a pit stops gap to Ocon in 5th, and Russell almost has that as well. So Mercedes, I would say, are heading for a 3rd and 4th here at worst. So looking great for them. We'll see if they can get it, and they might actually be able to outscore Ferrari in this Grand Prix. Ollie asks how far ahead of Ocon is Russell? About 16 seconds, so he's very close to being a pit stop ahead. As Alonso in the background, about 2.7. Now 3 seconds behind us. Leclerc, I think's pitted. No, he hasn't. I thought he did then, but he has not. As here is Zhou on Stroll. Stroll nicely putting it in the middle of the track, but can Zhou get a good exit from the corner? He does to a certain extent, but it's not good enough. And yeah, this is really costing Zhou here, but this is great for Stroll. Because obviously when he pits, whenever that'll be, he will probably be able to come back at Zhou, be at least close to him. But the hard compound tyre definitely holding up very well, which is not a surprise here. As we're on lap 32, Verstappen is about 8.2, 8.3 seconds clear of Sainz, so still has a pretty healthy gap. With Charles Leclerc, though, so I think the strategy is pretty clear now with Ferrari here with Leclerc. He is eventually going to pit later, as he's getting very close here to Ocon. Will he go down the inside? No, Ocon just about stays ahead. It is important, by the way. I know people might think Ocon should just let him go, but it's important Ocon stays ahead because he might be racing Leclerc at the end. So he's got to keep his car ahead. Very important for the race. To the race result, obviously, at the end. But Leclerc, his strategy now is going to be to go onto mediums and then go to the end of the race on a one-stop strategy. If he was to pit now, he would come out in probably 15th place, maybe 16th. So he'd have a lot of work to do, Leclerc. And even though, yes, he's 6th right now, because he's not passing Ocon, he's not looking great for a lot of points here. I mean, really, you'd have to say the top 6 looks as though it's going to be Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon, Alonso, with how it's looking at the moment. Leclerc probably heading for an 8th or a 9th at the minute. But yeah, we're now cut back to this train behind Lance Stroll of Zhou, Tsunoda and Ricciardo. Zhou and Ricciardo, by the way, have pitted out of that little train. So yeah, those are the drivers needing to overtake here, but they just can't do it, as Zhou is having to cool the car slightly there, as it's a very hot day in Montreal. And Zhou doesn't get the greatest exit in the world, but yeah, still sticking very close to Stroll. Stroll doing a great job, and also so is Esteban Ocon, to keep their cars in front. And yeah, for Ocon, he's doing a great job for himself to keep himself in a good position, as here is Max Verstappen, who is about to complete lap 33 and go on to lap 34. He is 8 seconds clear of Sainz, but he says he feels like he is losing tyre grip already. Like I said, he's been on the hard tyre now 24 laps, and he's still got half the race to go. He is going to have to pit again. There is no way, unless Sainz retires and, you know, has a problem that means Max can then baby the tyres to the end, Max is going to have to pit for another set of tyres. For Carlos Sainz, maybe Sainz might go to the end, but Verstappen, I don't see how he gets to the end on this tyre. He'll have to pit again. And if they have another set of hard tyres, then surely they'll put him on that, because that hard tyre is performing better than the medium. As, yeah, still looking at this train on the TV broadcast. And no movement so far. Obviously, I know people watching this will be, oh, this is boring and all that rubbish, but what would you rather? It's at least a great battle on track. And we've had plenty of great overtakes, great racing so far, and great battles. So, yeah, a great Grand Prix so far. As Just a replay there of Sainz really hitting the inside of the first part of the last chicane. Very hard. Obviously, Leclerc did that at Imola and ended up almost retiring from the race. As we are now on lap 35 and we are now halfway through this Canadian Grand Prix. What a race it's been so far, as Zhou is a bit closer this time to Lance Stroll. So let's see, can Zhou get an overtake done? He has to for his race because he's costing himself time here. Stroll, though, no, he can't get close enough to force Stroll to defend. Can he get close enough into turn one? No, I don't think he will. A Stroll doing a superb job for Aston Martin. Just wanted to say, guys, don't forget, as soon as the race finishes, we'll be going straight into the race reaction here in Canada, and anything and all the key moments from this Grand Prix so far and the key moments to come, I'll be analysing tomorrow night at 8 PM UK time in a proper review of the Canadian Grand Prix. So don't forget to come along to those streams or for that content. And as well, don't forget to, if you are new to the channel, to subscribe for more content like this, because we do watch-alongs for every qualifying and race this season. And as well, for everyone watching, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can to help the channel grow. As it looks as though Zhou Guanyu is getting properly close now to Stroll. Not sure how much longer these hard tyres can do. I think if you're looking at Leclerc, for example, obviously he's stuck in dirty air. So going to be hurting his tyres, this, sitting behind Ocon, as Zhou still can't have a go at Stroll. But if you're on the hard tyre and you haven't pitted yet, you'd really want to be pitting at the earliest in about 10 laps time. Say lap 45, lap 46. But really, if I was these lot on the hard that haven't pitted yet, I'd probably wait until lap 50 at the earliest. Because, lap 45, if you want to get onto the medium as soon as possible, you could pit on lap 45, but for the best tyre grip from both, I think you'd really need to be pitting on lap 50, as George Russell has done a purple first sector, which is interesting. Mercedes, by the way, still pretty quick. Lewis Hamilton is only like a few tenths of a second, like, I don't know, half a second, maybe a lap slower than Verstappen. So, yeah, the pace is pretty good from Mercedes. Then again, they did pit later. Their tyres, I think. Not sure about Hamilton, but Russell definitely did. As Leclerc still stuck behind Ocon, and still Zhou Guanyu stuck behind Stroll. Tsunoda looks closer to Zhou this time, as Stroll obviously has no intention of pitting. And yeah, no possible overtake here. But this is, I like these things. Obviously, it's a good battle. I'd rather this than easy DRS overtakes, I have to say. As Pierre Gasly, by the way, has pitted for AlphaTauri. So Gasly is now 17th. So there you go. And Gasly, don't know what tyre he's on, but I'll let you guys know in a moment, as we're now on lap 38 out of 70, and Gasly has pitted for another set of hard tyres. Remember, Gasly pitted for his tyres on lap 7? So he's done 30 laps on that tyre. Let me just update the tyres quickly. So Norris obviously on the medium, not Gasly, as Ricciardo quite close here to Tsunoda, but no, move not being made. Zhou, though, is right behind Stroll. But no, Stroll gets a very good exit. The Aston Martin, very good on the exit of the corners, which we have seen, not just this year, but in years past as well. But these drivers are getting very restless now, as Russell has done another purple first sector. And Russell, by the way, at the moment, he's lapping, I think, at the pace of the leaders. So Mercedes have got some very good pace right now. As Verstappen, now 7 seconds only clear of Carlos Sainz. So if Max does pit again, Max will then have to make up 10 seconds to Sainz to win the race. Because I'm pretty sure Ferrari are going to stay out there. There's no reason now, I think, for Ferrari to keep, for Ferrari to, come in for a pit stop, as we are looking now at Leclerc, still behind Ocon, and Alonso is slowly but surely catching these two. I think Alonso, he is on obviously much fresher tyres, but I think he's probably just looking after his tyres at this point, and here's a replay of Leclerc behind Ocon. And his tyres look, I mean, he's got some wear on the right rear tyre, but a lot less wear than Ocon has. But those Ferrari tyres look pretty nice to me, considering he's now on lap 40. Well, it's about to be for him on lap 40 without pitting. So, yeah, this hard tyre is really holding up well, as Sainz is now just dipping under 7 seconds to Verstappen. And as well, if Max was to pit now, he would come out. He'd come out neck and neck, I think, with Hamilton. So maybe that's what Red Bull are waiting for, to clear Hamilton out of their pit window. But you got to say, Mercedes, this has got to be an encouraging race for them, because their race pace is pretty good. After 40 laps, they're only, 17 seconds off the lead. I know there's been a couple virtual safety cars, and, that's helped. But, yeah, the pace for Mercedes is pretty good here. And we are expecting them to be quite a bit quicker at Silverstone. So, good news if you are a Mercedes fan. As Leclerc continues to admire the rear wing of the Alpine. As, he won't be making any ground on Ocon. And I think the reason he can't pass Ocon is not necessarily because he can't get close enough, he can't follow close enough. I think it's more so to do with the Alpine's straight line speed. It's too good. As Alonso lurks in the background. And Leclerc into turn 10, getting very close, but the Alpine just has too much speed down this back straight. As Carlos Sainz on the last lap was 4.5 tenths quicker, and he's now cut the gap down to 6.5 seconds. As Ocon and Leclerc come through the final chicane, and Leclerc still not close enough to attack Ocon, as that train, by the way, behind Stroll has now added another member, Sebastian Vettel in 13th. And here's a replay of Nicholas Latifi. What adventures is he up to? He's only just pitted, I think, again for another set of hard tyres, and his front right wasn't on properly. There you go. So, Latifi currently 18th, but he's miles behind at the back. And, 2 retirements so far. Mick Schumacher and Perez, both technical problems for them. And obviously, they were both running, I think, in the top 10 at one point, which has helped some of the smaller teams in this Grand Prix possibly get some points today. Sainz really is now starting to close down Verstappen's gap. He's now 6 seconds behind. As well, Lewis Hamilton, I've noticed, and George Russell, I think, are lapping at the same speed, if not quicker, than Verstappen. So Verstappen's tyres, I think, may have gone a bit as Leclerc pits for Ferrari. Let's see where he will come out. He will drop down a lot of positions, and it's going to be tough for him to make his way into a decent points-paying position as he puts on the medium compound tyre And, oh no, slow pit stop on the rear tyre. That's cost him about 3 seconds. Oh dear. Then again, it's Ferrari. Yeah, we're expecting it at this point. So Leclerc. Oh, that's such a shame. Can he beat Ricciardo? No. He's come out in that train behind Stroll. Oh, Jesus Christ. He'll honestly, after that, he'll want to jump off a cliff after that. That is just rotten luck for Leclerc. So Leclerc is now 12th. He's on the medium compound tyre. Obviously, much faster car. He'll have faster and fresher tyres. But I've got to say, I was a bit surprised they pitted him then, because I don't think the mediums are going to last quite that long. 27, 28 laps. And yeah, Verstappen saying tyres are really starting to drop. And Sainz, in response to that, is now only 6 seconds behind. And like I was saying, Hamilton and Russell and the two Mercedes are going quicker. So if Verstappen does pit, he will come out in third. As Ricciardo here's having to go at Tsunoda, but Tsunoda stays ahead. Let me just update the tyre situation quickly. So Leclerc is now on the medium, as Ricciardo having another go as Max has been told to pit, and Max is into the pits. Max is not even that far away from lapping this lot. They're going that slow, and he is going to pit for another set of hard compound tyres, which is a sensible decision. And that pit stop looked about half a second, because I swear he only just pulled into the pit box. That was a 2.4 second stop. Can he get ahead of Hamilton? No, he can't, and Hamilton gets ahead. So it's now lap 44, and Sainz is into the lead. Hamilton is second. Hamilton, he won't be able, Lewis, to hang on for that long, as Leclerc, I notice, has passed... Leclerc has passed Ricciardo. So Sainz is now leading. Hamilton second, Verstappen third. And Verstappen has 26 laps to win this race. And he has a 12-second gap to the leader. So he needs to really catch the leader at a second a lap. But first, he's got to dispatch Lewis Hamilton. But, right, hold on. So, Leclerc is what I was trying to say. He's up to fourth. And yet, Max Verstappen is going to get the move done now on Hamilton. Hamilton's not going to defend because he's not in the same race, really. And Verstappen up to second. And now it is an 11-second gap as Lewis Hamilton has been told to pit on now lap 45. So these are the final stops for some of the front runners. I don't think... If I was Ferrari, I'd leave Carlos Sainz out there. I really would. And take the risk. Because if they pit Sainz now, Verstappen wins. End of story. Plus, if a virtual safety car comes out soon, you never know what could happen. So Hamilton has pitted and comes out in fourth. Obviously on the hard compound tyre as well. Hold on. I need to just quickly do these tyres. Yuki Tsunoda is about to fall victim to Charles Leclerc, and he does. So Leclerc is up to 10th place now. So let me just update what tyres he is on. And no, not that driver, this one. So Leclerc on the medium compound tyre. As I've just noticed as well that Pierre Gasly is in 16th now. And Norris having an absolute horror show in 17th place. As we're now on lap 46, as George Russell now pits, and that'll be the end of Mercedes' pit stops, as Max does a fastest lap of a 1:16.9, and he knows exactly now what he's got to do. And good pit stop for Russell, and Mercedes should finish now third and fourth. And yet Russell comes out miles ahead of Ocon, and surely this has got to be an encouraging weekend now for Mercedes, considering their race pace. But Max, he was 11 seconds behind. Now he's only 9.2. So it's going to be tough for Sainz, but they've got to stick him, they've got to keep him out there and stick with it, because this is the only way they win. As here's a replay of Leclerc, how he passed Ricciardo. Did he pass Ricciardo into turn 8? Yes, he did. A great move there by Leclerc, and then a replay of him passing Yuki Tsunoda down the back straight. So Leclerc is probably heading for a 7th place here, as Max Verstappen now on lap 47 does a fastest lap of 1:16.8 in the Red Bull. And now it is only 8.8 seconds and coming down all the time, as Ricciardo and Vettel now stuck behind Yuki Tsunoda. Now Charles Leclerc is stuck. What was I going to say? No, Zhou Guanyu and Charles Leclerc, yeah, they're stuck now behind Lance Stroll. Lewis Hamilton now does the fastest lap of the race, a 1:16.7. Look at that. Mercedes got to be very happy with this race and the pace they've shown. But just want to make sure everything is correct on screen, you guys, and there is only one problem, and that it is that Gasly is obviously on the hard, not the medium. I think at this point, Stroll as Leclerc, what a brilliant move that is, down into turn 1, passing Zhou Guanyu, and Leclerc surely will easily dispatch Lance Stroll, as we're now on lap 48, only 22 laps remaining. And Leclerc, well, he's got about 20 seconds or 19 seconds from him to Ocon. So if he can catch Ocon at a second per lap, he will finish in 5th. Obviously, Alonso is now behind Ocon. So it might be tough, as now Leclerc all over the back of Lance Stroll. I may as well wait to see Leclerc pass Stroll here before I update the tyres for the drivers there. But for Zhou, by the way, Zhou Guanyu is having a good race. I just do want to emphasise that. And also Alfa Romeo having a pretty good race, as Leclerc, nope, Stroll pits, so Leclerc is now up to 8th. Yeah, Bottas currently in 7th, and Bottas is probably heading for a couple points as well. So Alfa Romeo having a very good day here. And onto the mediums, Stroll goes, and also Tsunoda has pitted, as Verstappen has done another new fastest lap, but he's not gaining as quickly as he was. He's 7.7 seconds behind. He is still gaining, and there is still 20 laps to go, but needs to keep this up. As is a replay of Ricciardo on Tsunoda, who I think then pits. Or no, this is just a replay of Ricciardo passing Tsunoda. Also Ricciardo in the fight. There's an AlphaTauri there. I think, yeah, Tsunoda, that's going to cause a safety car. He's gone deep at turn 2. He's just pitted, so he's just come out of the pit lane and gone straight on. And that is going to cause a safety car. What's going to happen then? Up front, Red Bull will be panicking like mad now. And surely that, yeah, safety car, full safety car. So surely there will be some pit stops now. Oh boy, this is going to get interesting. And I didn't see a replay of that, but looks as though he went straight on. And yeah, Carlos Sainz is into the pits for the hard compound tyre. And Verstappen goes into the lead. So Verstappen retakes the lead, and Red Bull putting their faith in Verstappen to defend the lead with 20 or just under 20 laps to go now. But this will close things right up, and this will massively help Charles Leclerc. Also, Valtteri Bottas, who hasn't pitted yet and is in 7th. So Verstappen retakes the lead, and then it's Sainz 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, Russell 4th, and then Ocon, Alonso, Bottas, Leclerc, and then, well, it's actually Zhou in 9th, and Daniel Ricciardo is 10th. Sebastian Vettel is 11th, and then it's Kevin Magnussen in 12th place now, as here comes the two Alpines. Ocon puts on a set of mediums, Bottas pitting as well. And Lance Stroll, by the way, from his pit stop is now 13th. You've got Gasly in 14th, and then Albon 15th, and then Norris and Latifi. Tsunoda, yeah, is out of the race, and Ocon and Alonso both come out in 5th and 6th, ahead of the Ferrari of Leclerc. As Vettel now goes up into the top 10 as Zhou and Ricciardo pit. Zhou and Ricciardo will both come out in 10th and 11th because Magnussen is so far behind, I think. Yeah, they will. So that will really help Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo now 8th and 10th. Looking great for them. Right, so it's now lap 51 as the front of the pack are now behind the safety car. So lap 51. And it is now Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon, Alonso, Leclerc 7th, Bottas 8th, Vettel 9th, Zhou 10th. That is your top 10. And then it's Ricciardo, Magnussen, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Norris, and Latifi. And yeah, stupid mistake there by Tsunoda. And that will, be a very embarrassing moment for him. But let me just quickly do the tyres, as they are still behind the safety car. Safety car shouldn't last too long. Probably another 2 or 3 laps, and then we'll have a 15-lap showdown to the end. So we've got a few people on mediums now. We've got Ocon on mediums, Alonso on mediums, and we've also got Leclerc and Bottas on the medium compound tyre. Vettel is on the hard, and then I believe Zhou and Ricciardo might be on the medium. I'm not sure about that. Hopefully they show the running order again so I can redo it. But yeah, safety car still out, and actually Zhou and Ricciardo are on the hard tyre. Stroll is 13th on the medium, I think. Yep, he is. Right, so those are all the tyres. They are now correct. So it is now lap 52 out of 70. And we're under a safety car. And this is the current running order. So Max Verstappen leads Carlos Sainz. Hamilton is 3rd. Russell 4th. Ocon 5th. Alonso 6th. Leclerc 7th. Bottas 8th. Vettel 9th. And Zhou Guanyu is 10th. And then the rest of the order is Ricciardo 11th. And then Magnussen, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Norris, Latifi. And your retirements are Tsunoda, Schumacher, and Perez. But remember, Carlos Sainz's hard compound tyres are now 6 laps younger. So he will have the tyre advantage, but can he really pass Verstappen on track? We know how hard it is to overtake Max on track. We've seen it ever since Max came into Formula 1. But obviously, Sainz, not just that, is going to be difficult. Also, remember, Carlos has never won a Grand Prix in his career. Yet it is so tantalizingly close. As the reason I think we're going to have a bit of a delay here is because we have a bit of a lot of the cars are spaced out still because of traffic and a lot of people pitting. So this is probably going to take another 3 or 4 laps, to be honest, before we get going, because obviously then we've got to let the lapped cars through. So still have time yet before we get going, I reckon. As Lewis Hamilton on his team radio there. But now they begin lap 53. But it should be a 15 lap or just under 15 lap showdown to the end for the rest of the positions. And it should be a very good end to this Grand Prix. Definitely very tense. And a big reason why we're going to be waiting so long, as I think of the lapped cars now may overtake. So they're letting through who are they letting through? Car 20, 18, 10, 23, 4 and 6. So that's Magnussen, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Norris, Latifi. I was going to say they're going to have to wait a while because Magnussen is so far back. I didn't actually know he was a lap down. But yeah, now they will be able to unlap themselves. That'll help, by the way, Lance Stroll, who is on fresh medium tyres in 13th place. Maybe he can get a point at his home Grand Prix. But hopefully that, because well, everyone who's who wasn't lapped, the top 11, are all now behind the safety car in a line. And now we've just got to wait for the lapped cars to get, back round to the pack. Which, yeah. So the race will probably restart at the end of lap 54, I reckon. So get ready, guys, because this is going to be one hell of a finish in Montreal. As Hamilton there on radio. Well, maybe Hamilton, the reason on the radio so much is because maybe he, I don't know, maybe he wanted to, I don't know, go on a softer tyre to have a go at the two ahead of him, but I don't think he quite has the pace for that, unfortunately. I think for Mercedes, they just need to secure 3rd and 4th and hope that something happens to Verstappen and Sainz, like a crash or something. And then maybe, and yeah, safety car in at the end of this lap, the end of lap 54. And yeah, if there is some sort of contact with Verstappen and Sainz which causes some mayhem, then hopefully for Mercedes, they can then come through and win the Grand Prix. I think that's what they've got to sit there and hope for. They should be able, I mean, Ocon and Alonso behind them are on, well, they're not on fresher tyres, but they are on softer tyres. And maybe might be under a bit of threat there, so they'll have to watch out behind them, or certainly Russell will. But yeah, here we go for this last 15 laps. What a Grand Prix it has been. And by the way, guys, maybe not yet, but when we get to the final 5 laps, start letting me know who your driver of the day is and who, or what your rating out of 10 is for the Grand Prix. It's been a pretty good race so far, I would say. Probably about 7 out of 10 so far. But let's see what this final 15 laps offers us. As now Verstappen becomes the safety car. As the lapped cars have just now made their way back to the back of the pack. As Verstappen now weaves down the back straight, heading down to the final chicane. And the overtaking, remember, begins at the start-finish line. The Verstappen, I think, will want to probably get going before the final chicane so he can try and get a slight lead over Sainz on the first lap. as Max now comes into the final chicane, still weaving. He's not going yet. Still isn't. And now he is. Max Verstappen begins the race again as Carlos Sainz is right behind him in the slipstream. Can Sainz have a go? No, not quite yet, but Max did not do a great restart there, I've got to say. And everyone gets away as they were. As the Alpines, they're pretty close to one another. And I've got Charles Leclerc crawling all over the back of him. Remember, DRS will be reactivated probably on lap 58, I'd imagine. And yep, Leclerc already having a look at the back of Fernando Alonso. He's not had the greatest race today, which is not necessarily his own fault. As Leclerc now trying to get a decent run on Alonso, but loses a bit of time there through turn 8 and 9. And Alonso closing on Ocon. Leclerc gains so much time into the braking for turn 10 as Vettel, who hasn't pitted under the safety cars, got Zhou Guanyu all over the back of him as Verstappen leads by... He's going to lead on this new lap 56 as Vettel just about holds Zhou off. Obviously, no DRS for Zhou. And now 15 to go, and Verstappen leads by 8 tenths of a second from Carlos Sainz. So obviously hunting for that first win of his career. He's just got to make sure, Sainz, to keep about a second behind until that DRS gets activated, and then he can apply the pressure, as Leclerc doing exactly that to Alonso. And Zhou, yeah, will be desperate for DRS to be activated soon, because Vettel, who didn't pit and has been on those tyres since lap 7 or 8, is going to be very slow now for the final 15 laps of this Grand Prix. Will Leclerc have a go at Alonso into turn 10? Not quite, but he will try to get a good slingshot out of turn 10, but DRS isn't activated yet. So he'll have to wait, as he won't gain that much time down the straights on Alonso. Gains a slight bit in the slipstream, but nothing major. As Lewis Hamilton, by the way, at the moment has the fastest lap point. We'll see if that changes. No, Carlos Sainz now has it. And Sainz, yeah, 1:16.2, and he is 9 tenths of a second behind Max Verstappen. As Zhou, DRS now enabled. They're on lap 57. Zhou Guanyu has passed Sebastian Vettel. Critical for him and critical for Alfa Romeo, who are currently heading for 6 points, 8th and 9th currently, as Lance Stroll is up to 12th position. Also Magnussen, remember he pitted for a new front wing on lap 10. That was the last time he pitted. So also he's going to be struggling on tyres. Here's a replay of Zhou into turn 1. What a move by the Chinese driver. Round the outside into turn 1 and then the inside for turn 2. What a brilliant couple races he's having. As Sainz is now within a second of Max Verstappen. Has the DRS. Verstappen defending to the inside. And no, doesn't quite defend. As now on the exit of the chicane, Sainz, can he have a go at Verstappen into turn 1? No, but he does do the fastest lap of the race. And now Verstappen has to do a brilliant defensive job here if he is going to win his first Canadian Grand Prix, to prevent the man who is desperate to win his first ever Grand Prix. As we've got about 12 laps remaining now. And Sainz, obviously, in the corners, in the dirty air, losing some time as Kevin Magnussen has lost a few positions with his old tyres now, which is not a surprise. Alex Albon has gone up to 13th place, which is good for him. And Sainz now into the hairpin. He's 7, almost 8 tenths behind Verstappen. But now we'll get DRS again. And if he can just keep it, keep the gap like this, he'll be able to hound Verstappen until the end. And that will, help hurt Max's tyres. As Lewis Hamilton, by the way, only a 1.5 seconds behind Sainz. So he's there ready to pick up the scraps. Can Verstappen hold on? If he does, it'll be probably his best win in a while. And yeah, Hamilton not too far behind, as here is Charles Leclerc, who's now 6th, and he sent it down the inside of Alonso at the hairpin. So Leclerc is now 6th, and you've got to imagine that he'll pass Ocon now for 5th. And yeah, he's right behind Ocon. You never know, Leclerc, if he really does an amazing final 10 laps, Leclerc could finish on the podium here, as Sainz is a lot closer now into the hairpin than he was previously. And yet, with the fastest Sector 2, he's 2 tenths closer now than he was the previous time. DRS now wide open. And Max doesn't have to defend yet, but it's getting close to that point. As Charles Leclerc goes... No, he tried to go around the outside of Ocon, but he's had to rejoin on the straight. And he will now give position back up to Esteban Ocon. So Leclerc back down to 6th. He tried the same move he did on Bottas, but it didn't work. As Magnussen, I've noticed, has dropped to last place now, which is not great, obviously. But like I said, he's been on those tyres for the... feels like the entire Grand Prix. And yeah, Leclerc tried the same move around the outside into the final chicane, but he just went too deep and got it all wrong. As Sainz continues to hustle the back of that Red Bull. Max does a purple Sector 1, but Sainz is right behind him into the hairpin, and he's about the same gap behind Verstappen he was the previous time. As Leclerc passes Ocon, so Leclerc is up to 5th. And now, next target is Russell in the Mercedes, as Sainz gets a decent exit from the final chicane, but still not quite close enough, as we've got 10 laps remaining. Now, lap 61 out of 70. And Leclerc has about 3.7 seconds now to make up to George Russell. And yeah, same move he did on Alonso. He did the dummy and then threw it down the inside. Ocon wasn't going to even try and defend that, as Max still desperately clinging on here. Only 6 tenths of a second the gap into turn 8 and 9. And Max just about doing enough here in this middle sector to keep Sainz further behind. And yeah, Sainz not going to be close enough on this occasion, I don't think, to have a chance really at an overtake. Right, I've just noticed a couple position changes. Daniel Ricciardo is now 10th and Lance Stroll is now 11th. So McLaren at the moment heading for a point, as Sainz still close, but not close enough, as we are now on lap 62 out of 70. And Stroll, obviously, is on the medium, as Leclerc, got to say, not really gaining that much time on Russell. So I don't think Leclerc, unless he pulls out some amazing pace from somewhere, I don't think Leclerc will be able to get after the Mercedes here. But there is still time, as Max does a purple Sector 1, and definitely he is further ahead of Sainz now than he was, and almost a second clear of the Spaniard, Lewis Hamilton, is still about 1.8 seconds behind Sainz and only a couple seconds, about 3 seconds rather, off the lead. Lewis Hamilton still there waiting in case something happens. And Max, he's not quite got out of DRS range, but he is very close to getting out of DRS range. He is putting in some amazing laps in, really showing his true quality and why he is the championship leader and the current defending world champion. As through turn 1 and 2, he continues to lead, and Leclerc now is starting to gain quite a bit of time on Russell. He's taken a second out of Russell. And the first sector, I think Verstappen has pulled out about a 10th or so. That's really the sector where Verstappen has been so good this weekend. As Sainz gets DRS down to turn 8. And he's now, what? He's closed in. He's about a couple tenths now closer than he was the previous lap. Just needs a good release from this hairpin, if he can get it. And yeah, it's a decent one. And we'll see how much closer he can get. By the way, we've got a bit of a train now behind Esteban Ocon. You've got Alonso, Bottas, and Zhou. The Alfa Romeo is now hunting after the Alpines in this race. As Sainz does a fastest lap of a 1:15.7. He's given it absolutely everything at this point. As Lance Stroll passes Daniel Ricciardo for 10th. So Stroll, for the home crowd, is in to 10th place. And now, how far is he behind? He's 8.8 seconds behind Zhou. What's happened with Ricciardo? He must have a car problem or something, because I don't understand why he's lost that much time to the cars ahead of him. But Stroll, like I said, he is up now to 10th place. Ricciardo doing that tactical thing he does to put dirt into the drivers' eyes, but it didn't work because Stroll easily overtook him. And I think Daniel Ricciardo must have some sort of issue, because I don't understand why he's lost that much time. As Sainz still not close enough, unfortunately, as they cross the line to start lap 65. He's only half a second behind, but really into turn 1 you need to be about a 10th behind to possibly make an overtake stick. As Leclerc is closing on Russell, but I don't think he will be able to close enough to overtake Russell before the end. As Sainz, not just trying to get his own victory, but trying to save Ferrari's championship hopes. Because if Verstappen holds on here with Perez out of the race and Leclerc in 5th, Verstappen will then be leading the championship by almost 50 points going into the British Grand Prix, with Leclerc returning to 2nd in the championship. So this is a critical win for Verstappen if he can try and get it. And Sainz does have DRS again, but he is still not close enough. If Ferrari have any extra power in there, they need it right now. Even if the engine blows to smithereens, they need to get this win. As now, lap 66. Let me know, guys, by the way, in the chat. Like I said, let me know who has been your driver of the day, and let me know what you rate this race out of 10 for. For me, it's probably about a 7 out of 10, this Grand Prix. Not an amazing Grand Prix, but definitely a good one, or a very good one. As Verstappen doing a very good first sector again, but not enough to keep Sainz over a second behind. As now we're looking at Fernando Alonso who is behind Ocon, and I assume Alonso will be asking to be let through because Ocon is so slow. But as long as Alpine can keep in 6th and 7th, I don't think that's really what they should be doing, because as long as they get this result, that'll be good enough. Because at the moment, Alpine are heading for 14 points, which will see them close the gap massively to McLaren in the championship. As Sainz now down the back straight, he's got DRS again, and he closes to within half a second of Verstappen. But Max is nailing every corner right now. As we now begin lap 67, 4 full laps to go here in Canada. As Sainz has done, I think, just did a purple final sector there. And yeah, with Leclerc, looks as though he will not be able to catch the Mercedes, who are heading for a great result, Mercedes, and actually are heading for almost the same amount of points that Ferrari are heading for. I think Ferrari only scoring a couple points more. But Verstappen's had a very good middle sector there. Pulled the gap up to 9/10. Not enough, though, to keep Verstappen, or to keep Sainz, rather, from having DRS now down the back straight. But he just cannot, Sainz, in that first sector. That's really where he needs to get closer. In the first sector, Max is just pulling out a couple tenths of a second each time. As Verstappen gets as close to the wall on the exit as you can. And now 3 full laps to go. Lap 68 out of 70. And this, like I said, for Verstappen would be a brilliant win. And it would be also for Sainz if he could somehow find a way past. Into turn 6 and 7 they come. Sainz doesn't look too far behind from this visor cam, but I think Verstappen looks a lot closer than he actually is. And yeah, that is the case, unfortunately, for the Spaniard, as Alex Albon has passed Pierre. Gasly, I think, just had a go at Albon, and Albon is stayed ahead somehow. As now into the hairpin. Again, he looks closer than he actually is, Verstappen. He's tantalisingly close, and Sainz closer this occasion to Verstappen, but I'm not sure still he is close enough as they come down to the final chicane. And yeah, he's just lacking that 2 or 3 tenths of a second he needs. As now they will start the penultimate lap in Canada. Who will win the Canadian Grand Prix? Will it be Max Verstappen for the first win ever for him in Canada, or will it be Carlos Sainz's first win of his Formula 1 career? Into turn 3 and 4 they come. And Verstappen, you have to say, doing brilliantly here. Just doing enough to keep ahead. And that's all that matters right now. Doesn't need to be spectacular. Just needs to do enough to stay ahead of Sainz. But Sainz has had a very good first sector. And now he's a couple tenths closer on this lap. And can he have a good release from turn 9? Yes, he can. Into the hairpin they come. He's only 6 tenths behind now. He's definitely closer than he was. Oh, no. He's had a poor hairpin there, Sainz. He's lost about 2 or 3 tenths of a second, and he's lost all the time he gained in the first sector. But he will still close on Verstappen down to the final chicane as Verstappen comes into the final chicane and exits. Can Verstappen on this final lap hold on for victory? Into turn 1 they come. And Sainz so close to the win, he can almost touch it as he's losing the rear end all over the place on the exit of turn 2. What he doesn't need to do is try too hard here and end up crashing, because that would be a disastrous end. And Sainz now through turn 6 and 7. And yeah, Max just too far ahead on this occasion. That final that lap previously was his chance. He'd done the job in the first and middle sector, but lost too much time in the hairpin. If he didn't lose that time, he may have made an overtake. As they come into the hairpin now, and Verstappen, all he needs now is a good exit, and that's precisely what he has. And now the gap is 1.3 seconds. Carlos Sainz has thrown in the towel as Max Verstappen, the championship leader, comes home now into the final chicane to win yet another Grand Prix in 2022. His first win in Canada, and surely will be world champion this year with this win. Max Verstappen wins in Canada. Carlos Sainz finishes second, and it is definitely Red Bull on top here and in 2022 now, surely, as Lewis Hamilton finishes third. His first podium Hamilton since Bahrain, which feels about a million years ago. As Alonso there holds off Bottas for seventh. Leclerc, so it's Russell fourth. Leclerc fifth. Ocon sixth. Alonso seventh. Bottas eighth. Zhou Guanyu ninth. And then it should be Lance Stroll in 10th place. There you go. Stroll gets a point. That's good for Aston Martin. And Aston Martin now overtake Haas in the Constructors' Championship. What a win for Verstappen. And now Verstappen leads in the Drivers' Championship by 49 points over Leclerc second and Perez. Actually, I think Perez might be second. I think Perez actually is 46 points behind, and Leclerc will be 49 points behind. So still, a fantastic gap for Verstappen to have. And after that win, and what's happened to Ferrari failing to get the win here, surely the championship is Red Bull's now, and Max Verstappen's. As Red Bull have now won 6 in a row in 2022. They are pretty much at this point dominating the 2022 Formula 1 season, and Max, out of those 6 wins, has won 5 of them, and it's his 6th win of 2022 alone, when Leclerc only has 2. A shame for Sainz. He did a very good race, Sainz. That was his best performance of the year so far, but ultimately just isn't as good as Max Verstappen. That was the difference between him and winning this Grand Prix. So guys, that is the race over. And yeah, let me know, guys, in the live chat. Like I said, let me know the what do you call it? Let me know what you rate this race out of 10 for. I'm going to give this race a... What am I going to give it? I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It was a pretty good Grand Prix here in Canada. I don't think we were really that disappointed with what we got. And for my driver of the day, I am going to go for Charles Leclerc. Yeah, I'll go Charles Leclerc as my driver of the day. Also, shout out to Zhou Guanyu and Lance Stroll and Valtteri Bottas as well for their great stints they did. As Max Verstappen now celebrates his win. Right, so whilst you guys post in the chat what you thought, I'm going to quickly or just change around a couple things. I'm going to quickly, rename the stream Race Reaction. So people know what we're doing here. And that should save. There you go. And also, I'm going to quickly post the link back out on Twitter. Let me get rid of the ticker so people don't think that the race is still going. So there you go. Race has finished. And yeah, that is your final finishing order. Let me just post on Twitter. just posting it out now. So yeah, keep your comments coming. And as well, so what we're going to do is obviously I'll go through the race results and we'll go through all the teams. So make sure to post your comments in chat regarding all the teams. And as well, after I talk about all the teams, I'm then going to get into championship standings, also some comments that I've missed in the last week or so, and I'm going to also, at the end of the stream, and make sure you stick around to the end of the stream, I'm going to get into, content coming up for the next couple of weeks or so. So, hold on. Let me just repost the link on Twitter. And yeah, that was a brilliant Grand Prix in Canada. Right, so I'm going to quickly just read out a couple comments from you guys in the chat. And then we'll see about getting this, getting this race reaction started. Got some 7 out of 10s there in the chat. Gardener's Plot says 8. Great watch along stream, Chazzy, you're the man. Thank you, Ewok, for that. And thank you guys for joining the race watch along. But yeah, make sure to stick around because we've still got plenty to talk about before I end here. And we will momentarily get into the race. I just want to wait, if I can, for the race results to come out on the Formula 1 Twitter account. If that's possible, but it doesn't look as though it is going to be at the minute. So I think what we'll do for the minute is we'll just get going here with the race reaction. So yeah, what a Grand Prix. Exactly what I expected. Fights all the way up and down the field. Also great fight for victory. Some surprises. Yeah, was exactly what you want in a Formula 1 Grand Prix, that. And great, like I said, to be back in Canada. So, obviously, we can't get into the gaps yet because, I haven't got the exact race result list ready yet from Twitter. But let me read out the final finishing order of the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix. So Max Verstappen wins his first Grand Prix in Canada. Carlos Sainz finishes second. He was so close to that first win, but Verstappen just too good, which he has been pretty much all season long, except for a couple races here and there. Lewis Hamilton, great job by him to finish third. Russell fourth. Mercedes have got to be encouraged by that performance, and going to Silverstone where we're expecting them to bring an upgrade, and they're probably going to be better on that track anyway because it's a better track for them. You never know what Mercedes could do in a fortnight's time. Charles Leclerc fifth, the best he could have done. Great performance, and he is my driver of the day. Like I said, guys, let me know in the chat who you think the driver of the day is. Ocon sixth, Alonso seventh. Alonso was really screwed over today when it came to strategy. Really screwed over. If they had pitted him on lap 20 when that virtual safety car came out, when Sainz pitted for the first time, if they had pitted him then, Alonso might have finished third or fourth in this Grand Prix, but ends up seventh. So very poor from Alpine. Don't quite understand what they were trying to do, to be honest, but we'll get to that later on. Valtteri Bottas 8th, Zhou Guanyu 9th, Lance Stroll finishes in 10th, and then 11th Daniel Ricciardo, 12th Vettel, 13th Albon, 14th Gasly, 15th Norris, 16th Latifi, 17th Magnussen. What a bad day for Haas, as I expected. Maybe not this bad, but yeah, I didn't think they would finish in the points. And then your retirements, Yuki Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, and Sergio Perez. So that is your final finishing order here in Canada. I'll have another quick check to see if I can throw up on screen the race results. And no, I'll have to probably wait for that till later. So let's get into the teams, shall we? Yeah, let's just get into it. So, start with Red Bull. Yeah, brilliant race for Verstappen. Got the win he had to get today, and it was a fantastic drive. Was made hard for him, because obviously he pitted under that first virtual safety car that came out on lap 10, I think it was. If that virtual safety car had not come out, or he hadn't pitted, then it would have been definitely a tricky Grand Prix. Would have been a less tricky, Grand Prix for him than previous. So, yeah, a good, very, very good drive and a good performance overall from Red Bull and Verstappen, despite it being a much trickier race than we expected for Verstappen, because obviously, he was in the lead, Alonso was second, Sainz third on, I think, the end of lap 1, and at that point, and when when Sainz eventually passed Alonso, we thought that Max would be, 3 or 4 seconds clear of, he was 3 or 4 seconds clear of Sainz, and we thought at that point that he would easily win, but it was a lot harder. Obviously, pitted first, Sainz stayed out. By the time Sainz pitted for the first time, it was another virtual safety car, and he benefited from that quite a bit, did Carlos Sainz, and then started then to close in on Verstappen. Verstappen, despite his tyres going away, did some pretty good lap times still to hang on to that decent gap he had. And then when the safety car, when Verstappen pitted again, then obviously it was then going to become a battle of Verstappen catching Sainz to win the Grand Prix. And then obviously when the safety car came out, Sainz pitted, and it put Red Bull in a very tricky position for the end of the Grand Prix, because they knew it was going to be a final 15 laps where Max Verstappen was looking in his mirrors and trying to desperately hold on to the victory. But because Max is an amazing driver and great defensive driver, I, to be honest, had some, pretty good confidence in him to keep that lead. Obviously, it would have been great, and I was hoping that Sainz would have a go, because it would have been an amazing finish to the Grand Prix, but sadly, that did not happen. But yeah, Verstappen, what a drive, what a driver. And yeah, now leads the championship by 46 points to Sergio Perez, 49 points to Charles Leclerc. And for me, the championship is over. I don't see, because of the form he's in, how good the Red Bull car is, and the circuits remaining on the calendar, I do not see how Ferrari can respond to this. I just don't see how that's going to happen. Which is unfortunate because, because, going into the rest of the season, I was hoping that we would have another title fight go down to the bitter end like it did last year. And obviously, it was amazing, the end of last season, the racing and the title fight. But I don't see that happening. I think Verstappen is probably going to have the championship won by the United States Grand Prix, probably. I'd be very surprised if it went down to the final race, or if Leclerc obviously won it. I think Leclerc needs, the miracle of all miracles, really, if he's going to beat Verstappen to the championship. And then with Sergio Perez, disappointing for him, because he started on the hard compound tyre, did Perez, and then, he, because of a couple people dropping back, I think Magnussen, because of his new front wing, and a couple people pitting, I think maybe a couple overtakes he did. Perez was in a decent position. He was in P10 on the hard compound tyre, and we saw the hard tyre today was very good. So Perez, if he had not retired, I think could have finished probably 5th instead of Leclerc. But it wasn't to be. Suffered some kind of problem. Don't know what the problem is. I don't know as of yet. But, yeah, a shame for Perez. And, Perez, he's had a great season. This weekend has not been good, but I don't see Perez fighting with Max for the championship. I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. I think the championship is wrapped up now for Max Verstappen. Obviously, Verstappen does have to keep up his performances, but as long as he does, I just don't see how anyone other than Max Verstappen will be champion this year. And obviously, Red Bull at this point have the Constructors' Championship pretty much wrapped up, even though Ferrari today scored 5 more points than them. If Red Bull, if Red Bull had finished with Perez as well as Verstappen, then they would have scored probably a few more points as opposed to a few less than Ferrari. So Red Bull still have the advantage over Ferrari, and you are looking at, without doubt, the world champion team and the world champion driver for 2022. It is definitely such a shame that it's ended this soon into the season. I mean, it's race 9, but I don't give Ferrari a chance, unfortunately. And talking of Ferrari, let's get on to them now. To be honest, I can't really criticise them today. I thought they did the best they could. With Carlos Sainz, I mean, if they had pitted with Verstappen on that first virtual safety car, then would have given themselves less of a chance of winning the race. So they had to stay out and try something to try and beat Verstappen. And then obviously once the second virtual safety car came out for Mick Schumacher's broken down car, then he pitted. And then gained quite a bit of time on Verstappen, a few seconds, and then Verstappen pitted, and then it looked as though it was going to be a showdown to the finish between Verstappen and Sainz. Now, who would have won had the safety car not come out? I'm probably going to lean towards Verstappen, but it would have been close. It would have been close between Verstappen and Sainz, but yeah, obviously safety car came out, Sainz pitted, had 6-lap younger tyres, and then had a go, I think one go, a couple of laps after the safety car came in, but ultimately could just never really get close enough to pass Verstappen. And I think really we saw there the difference between a top driver and a good driver, unfortunately. And I will say for Sainz, even though his qualifying, he did cost himself a front row with a mistake, he did have a very good race today, and he can be very proud of this performance because that was the best performance of his season so far. And hopefully now we'll take that forward into Silverstone, a track that he's done pretty well at in the past, and get a very good result there. But yeah, good to see from Sainz. But I think honestly, Ferrari, you could argue, got a bit unlucky with that safety car coming out on lap 50, because if it had stayed, green flag racing to the end, maybe they could have won the race. But yeah, Ferrari really did the best they could, I think, with Sainz, and you have to say with Charles Leclerc, they did as well. The only disappointment is that he got held up behind Esteban Ocon for so long. Had he not been and passed Ocon way sooner before he pitted, then maybe Leclerc could have finished on the podium. It could have happened in this Grand Prix. But yeah, got held up too much behind traffic. I thought that was going to happen, to be honest, in this race, and that's really what cost Leclerc the podium. But yeah, once the safety car came out, he did great, to pass the 2 Alpines, and after that just didn't have enough pace to get after the 2 Mercedes, and I think his tyres at that point were pretty much gone. So a shame, but he did the best he could, and Ferrari did the best they could on strategy. But it is another defeat. Red Bull wins 6 in a row, and Ferrari now, I think, just need to do damage limitation to the end of the season, because I don't think they're really going to catch a 49-point gap in the Drivers' Championship or a 70-odd point gap in the Constructors' Championship. I just don't see how that is going to happen, unfortunately. Hopefully, we get to see, Ferrari win a race, this season. That would be, or, win another race this season. Obviously, they've won 2. Their last win feels a long time ago. 2.5 months ago it's going to be by the time we get to Silverstone. So, yeah, hopefully they do win soon, because Red Bull are pretty much now dominating this season. But we'll move on from them. Let me know, guys, though, what you thought of Red Bull and Ferrari and what happened for those teams and drivers. Let me know in the chat, and I'll make sure to read out your comments soon enough. But we'll now go on to Mercedes. And you got to say, very encouraging performance. I mean, Alpine definitely cost Alonso on strategy, but Mercedes were faster than Alpine today. There is no doubt about that. Russell was very good today, I have to say, to overtake Magnussen and Ocon, with how quickly he did. Was absolutely amazing. And also Mick Schumacher he took very quickly as well in like the first 3 or 4 laps. So brilliant performance by Russell. And Lewis Hamilton benefited massively, obviously, from the pace of the Mercedes being better today, but has been Lewis this weekend very, very good. So good to see Lewis back to his best. And I think this performance proves that Lewis Hamilton is still, performing at his top level. The reason he's not had a great season is the car. We have to remember that. So, yeah, I have no doubt that Lewis Hamilton, if the car, later this season, maybe even for the British Grand Prix, can improve to the point where he could maybe win, then Lewis, you're going to see really the real return of Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, great pace for Mercedes. I mean, before Verstappen pitted for the second time, they weren't even lapping that slowly compared to the leaders. Definitely not second a lap. It was a lot less than that. Yeah, great pace from Mercedes today. The race pace we have seen this season has always been much better than their qualifying pace. It's just really qualifying where they don't do themselves any favours at times. But yeah, Mercedes looking great coming from this Grand Prix, and hopefully at the British Grand Prix, hopefully they will be, going better around that track, which I expect they will, because the track is less bouncy, is really about fast corners, and the Mercedes is better in fast corners rather than the slower corners. And if they do bring an upgrade, which I believe they will, obviously we'll see confirmation of that by the time we get to Silverstone. But yeah, I think definitely we could see Mercedes in a fortnight, possibly in this position again, but on absolute pace. Hopefully that is the case for them. Now we'll move on to McLaren. This will be the final team, guys, before I come to you in the chat. What a poor result. Daniel Ricciardo 11th. I thought Ricciardo performed well today, but I just don't understand where the pace went at the very end there. Because he dropped massively behind that battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. He just fell away by like 10 seconds. Like I said, I don't get it. I really do not understand where that pace went. But yeah, I mean, I thought Ricciardo still drove well. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't necessarily this result down to him. But Lando Norris, what an absolute disaster he had, mostly because of McLaren not putting any tyres on the car at the pit stop. An absolute disaster there. And yeah, I think this has got to be a very poor result for McLaren, because when you consider, how much quicker they were looking in the dry on Friday compared to Alfa Romeo and, Lance Stroll, remember he did start quite low down. McLaren should have been getting at least a point from this Grand Prix. So to get nothing is a very disappointing return. And now what that means is they are still 4th in the championship, but Alpine are now, I think 4 points behind. And given how Alpine's, car is at the minute and how quick it is, in 2 weeks' time, Alpine could go 4th in the championship. They really, really could. Alonso and Ocon are having great seasons. The Alpine car's pretty good. Overall, you'd probably say it's the better car than McLaren. Yeah, it's really not turning into a good season here for McLaren, and I really do fear for them in the second half of the season, I have to say. But yeah, not great for them, but yeah, just in that final 20 laps or so, just didn't capitalise on the safety car, and didn't end up getting a point. A very poor result of 11th and 15th for McLaren from the Canadian Grand Prix. But guys, let me know in the live chat right now. Let me know, what did you think of those top 4 teams and how they performed in this Grand Prix? And also let me know, again, if you haven't already, drivers of the day, rating out of 10 for the race. So yeah, let me know in the chat. And I'll just quickly go back to this picture of Max Verstappen, or actually I'll go back to these pictures from the Watchalong. Yeah, so make sure to put that in the live chat. If I don't read out your comments, just make sure to post it in the comment section down below. Just want to say, yeah, don't forget to stick along, or be around for the rest of the stream, because there is still plenty of stuff coming up in this stream. Obviously, we're going to cover the rest of the teams and also get into comments I've missed from some of you guys in the past week or so. And also make sure to stick around to the end, because I will get into what the schedule for content is between now and Silverstone, and also for the British Grand Prix, because there is going to be a couple of big-ish changes to the schedule. So yeah, make sure to stick around to the end. And yeah, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Obviously, we do race watch-alongs, qualifying watch-alongs, and race reactions and stuff like that for every Grand Prix in 2022. Make sure to subscribe. And for everyone watching, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, if you want to, give me a follow on Twitter at ChazHD5. Just going to quickly look again on the F1 Twitter account, and no, still no race results, so probably won't be able to get to them today, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get to your comments in chat instead. Lab Gorilla says, and Ferrari really cocked up Leclerc's first stop. Even when they have control of the situation, they screw up. I mean, yeah, they did mess up, but, compared to what they usually cock up, and, I mean, a slow pit stop of like 2 or 3 seconds, it is a mistake, but it's not a massive mistake. Bonebox Chicken says, please can Latifi go now? Or now go. Williams need a decent drive with Albon. Well, I hope they put Piastri in that car before the end of the season, but I'm not sure how likely that is, unfortunately. 6 wins to go for Alonso to equal Alonso's 32 wins in the all-time win record. There's FE. Yeah, it is scary how many wins he could end up with in his F1 career. Because, for example, Lewis Hamilton, I know obviously Hamilton didn't get into Formula 1 until he was 22. Obviously, Verstappen began when he was 17 and won his first race at 18. But, I mean, Lewis Hamilton had only, maybe 10 wins by the time he was 24, and Max has 26, 27. It's mental. If Max can stay in a race-winning, championship-winning team for the rest of his career, then Max is absolutely on course to break Lewis Hamilton's records. Whether he will do so, we'll have to see. Yeah, whether he will do so, as some weird guy there on Sky F1 trying to get in the camera. Yeah, whether he will actually break Hamilton's records is yet to be seen. It may be he will, later in his career, drop off in performance. Who knows? But if he keeps up this level of performance for the rest of his career, then he's on course to become one of the greatest of all time. Because, yeah, 27 wins by the age of 24 is, quite frankly, disgusting, as far as I'm concerned. James Zhou says, driver of the day is Verstappen. The guy is unstoppable. Also, shout out to Zhou, Guan Yu, and Stroll. Absolutely. G Walker says, of course, Max driver of the day. And 7/8 out of 10 for the race. Okay. Ronald, I think it is, says F1 cannot be satisfied with this lackluster victory of Max. Their brand is hurting. Merc is the only competition to bring back ratings. That's not F1's fault. It's not. It's Ferrari's fault. If Ferrari were a competent racing team, like Mercedes are. I know obviously Mercedes have designed a horrible car, but when it comes to trackside performance, Mercedes, they still get really the best results they can. They've not like this season, they've had disaster classes all the time, like Ferrari have had a couple times. So, yeah, blame on Ferrari. I mean, yeah, if Mercedes were up there fighting as well, it would be, this season would be an amazing season. It's not been as great as I hoped, honestly, at this point of the season, the 2022 Formula 1 season, but it's not because of the FIA or F1, it's because of Ferrari. They've ruined it by bottling the championship, unfortunately. KG says, because I have a theory that they gave GR63 the championship car to see how well the car is with a new driver. Next year, Lewis will get it and dominate again. No. Absolutely no. That is not what happened or what is happening at Mercedes. Count Blast says, first race I have watched since Abu Dhabi. Not bad, but Carlos was out of his league. Yeah, well, I think at the end of the day, yeah, he is a class below Max Verstappen. That is clear to see. But secondly, when does Carlos Sainz really ever fight for victory? That's the first time since, Monza 2020, where Sainz actually had a chance of winning. Maybe you could say Monaco this year, but I don't really think he had a great chance, to be honest, because, yeah, it's very hard to pass on the streets of Monaco. Lab Gorilla says the Drivers' Championship is over. Sainz didn't push Max at all. He never made a real effort to win, and Ferrari should have put mediums on him to let him attack. Maybe. From the commentary, it sounds like 8 out of 10. Gardner's Plot says, driver of the day, Leclerc. Vinster says, thanks, Chazza and crew. Your efforts are much appreciated. Happy Father's Day to all the American dads. Well, dads everywhere, but, cheers. Thanks for that. John Hawkins also says, got a dash, but thanks for the stream and thanks. Top chat. This is a good comment from Racing Prodigy, I think it is. Yeah. There's, why, Haas? Why are we still here? Is it just to suffer? Is it that Halo meme? Oh, one of those games. Yeah. They are. They are still here to suffer. Gina says, I can't watch this season. Sorry, I'm a Ferrari fan. The race was average, according to Aline. 6 out of 10. Yeah. That's your opinion. I mean, 6 out of 10 is still not a bad rating. Lab Gorilla says, you should have done what I did and put a ton of money on Max to be world champion. DJ Burp says, Gina saying, can't watch you live after 2021. I just put Chazza on listen for the results. Cheers for that. Let's see if I can find any comments here. These comments I'm going back and reading are from when the race was still on. But yeah, keep your comments coming in the chat, guys, and I'll make sure to, to keep reading. Nice super chat here from FEFE for €4.99, I think it is. There's a nice little F1 community growing on this channel, growing gradually. F1, what a lovely sport. Thanks for that. And yeah, I do like the community I've cultivated, I guess you could say, over here. I mean, obviously don't have as much subs as other people, but I'm happy with the subscriber base I do have, because I think maybe a couple years ago it was a lot more volatile than it used to be. But yeah, you guys are great. Anyway, I think we'll move on now to the midfield. So let me now get into those teams, and we'll start with Alpine. And yeah, 6th and 7th. It's a good result. I have to stress that, because coming into the weekend, if I said 6th and 7th Alpine will finish, everyone I think would say that's a great result. But considering where they were after 20 laps or so, it could have been a lot better. like I said, I don't know why they didn't pit Alonso under the second virtual safety car when Sainz pitted. If they had pitted him, they could have got a podium with him. I'm not sure whether they would have, but they would have given themselves a good chance, because a few laps after that, Lewis Hamilton overtook Alonso. I think, was it 4 laps after? So, if they pitted then, they would have gained time back on Hamilton on fresher tyres. But yeah, stayed out way too long. Got passed by Hamilton and Russell, and then pitted eventually, and then came out behind Ocon. Didn't have great pace, and then the safety car came out, and then was stuck behind Ocon, and then Leclerc obviously passed the pair of them, and that's why Alonso finished in 7th. Yeah, I'd love to know from Alpine what their plan was. Because, we saw, if you start on the medium compound tyre, really, you could only get about 20 laps out of them before you had to really pit if you started on them. So I just don't understand what that strategy was about. And then for Esteban Ocon, I thought he drove pretty well today. Got past, was it Mick Schumacher? Did get passed by Russell pretty easily, but then in terms of pace was pretty good. Was a lot more competitive with Alonso on race pace than he was in obviously qualifying and practice on Friday. So yeah, good result for Ocon. And Ocon is now, he's still 8th in the championship, or no, he's 9th in the championship, but he's very close to 8th now. Is Ocon, and also 7th being Lando Norris. So Ocon is really making some good progress in the drivers' standings and having a good season. Is Ocon still not really getting talked about enough for me? Is Ocon. Obviously we all love Alonso. Alonso's been great this weekend and had a great season. Been very unlucky, but yeah. Esteban Ocon. Yeah, you've got to put some respect on his name, because he's had, I think, more than one top 6 finish this season. Obviously here, Saudi Arabia, he finished in the top 6. Where else did he finish in the top 6? Maybe that was it, but he did finish, I think, 8th in Miami, 7th in Barcelona, 7th in Melbourne, 7th in Bahrain. That is, that's sheer consistency from Ocon. But, good result for Alpine still. They are now very close to McLaren in the championship. Alonso, I think, now is in the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship, so that's good for him. And yeah, Alpine looking good. And going into Silverstone, I would expect them to be quicker than McLaren and probably outscore them yet again there. And we know Fernando Alonso is a great driver around that track. The last time he raced there last year, I think he finished 7th or 8th for Alpine. And even in 2018, for McLaren, he finished, I think, 7th in a very bad McLaren car. And also has won the British Grand Prix twice, I think. And he's had a couple pole positions there as well. I think 3 pole positions at Silverstone. So, yeah, I expect Fernando Alonso to be right up there in 2 weeks' time. Now let's go on to Alfa Romeo, and Alfa Romeo are back. 8th and 9th. What a result for them. Great to see them back. Obviously, Valtteri Bottas, will start with him. Decent race, good race pace, but he did benefit, obviously, a lot from the safety car coming out, but took full advantage of that. Made his own luck, really, and finished in 8th place, and was very close to getting a 7th place from Alonso, but Alonso just too quick, I think, down the straights for the Alfa Romeo Bottas to really make a move on Alonso. But shout out as well, Zhou Guanyu. What a race he had. Was always quick throughout the race. Did lose a lot of time behind Lance Stroll. And if he had not lost all that time and had overtaken Stroll, a lot sooner before Stroll had pitted, then Zhou probably would have finished in 8th place ahead of his teammate, because that's what really cost him compared to Bottas. But great drive from him. Obviously, his 2nd points finish of his F1 career. Got what he deserved, really, from Baku, where it was took away from him because of a reliability problem. And yeah, Alfa Romeo get 6 very important points, and hopefully at what is a purpose-built racetrack at Silverstone, the first purpose-built racetrack we've been to since Barcelona. Hopefully, Alfa Romeo will, return to that great pace they had previously, because a lot of these recent not so great performances have been on street circuits. So maybe that has something to do with, how their season has gone so far, or not so far, but the last 2 or 3 races. But yeah, great result for them, and they are now comfortably 6th in the championship. And I have to stress that even though it's been disappointing for them the last 2 or 3 races where they've dropped back, and they're definitely a lot slower on pace than they were. If they finish in the top 6 of the Constructors' Championship, that would be an amazing season for them, considering this team that were Sauber, they haven't got close to that since like 2012 or 2011 or 2013 even. So, yeah, if they were to finish in the top 6 in the championship, which they currently are comfortably, I think now they're how many points ahead of AlphaTauri? They were 14 points ahead, so they're now 20 points ahead. So, yeah, if they finish top 6 in the championship, that would be pretty good for them. And hopefully they do, because they've built a good car for this year, and they really have had a good season so far, even despite a drop-off in pace recently. Now we'll go on to the Haas team. Absolute disaster. Kevin Magnussen, I think, broke his front wing on that first lap. Slight damage there. They had to replace his front wing, and that put him out of action. He did get up to 12th place for the safety car when the safety car came out. But then, because he had not pitted since that front wing change on lap 10, he had no grip left, and that's why he finished last of all the runners. And Mick Schumacher, I feel very sorry for, because he retired on lap 20, and it was with a technical problem. I'm just trying to see if, and yet they said Mick suffered a DNF due to a power unit issue, which is a shame, because he was in 7th place and he wasn't going particularly quick, but he was holding back Zhou Guanyu just behind him. So, yeah, it is a shame, and hopefully he could not get too down about what happened, because he was doing really well. He really, really was. He was putting in a great performance, and he has done this weekend, and hopefully at Silverstone will bounce back and be maybe not as good as what he did this weekend, but hopefully will do better than, say, Magnussen, or at least be very competitive with Kevin Magnussen. But to be honest, I didn't expect them to finish in the points this weekend, even with the good position they had. So I'm not really surprised with Haas F1's result, as they now fall to second last in the Constructors' Championship. Now we'll go on to, not them, to AlphaTauri. And yeah, poor result for them. Pierre Gasly pitted very early into the Grand Prix, which was a mistake. Also, it was a mistake for Sebastian Vettel. Not mistakes by them, but it was a mistake by the team for them in pitting so early. I don't understand what they thought they were going to accomplish by pitting that early. Don't get it, to be honest. But pitted early, lost a lot of time in traffic, and then, just stayed really at the back of the pack and ended up finishing in 14th place. And then Yuki Tsunoda was having a decent race up until he pitted, and then went and piled on straight on at the exit of the pit exit. In turn 2, it went straight into the barriers. A very embarrassing mistake that Jarno Trulli did in 2007. So he joins another unfortunate driver in suffering that fate. But shame for AlphaTauri, because they had good pace from practice. But 14th and a retirement, that's pretty bad for them. And all that momentum they had from Baku with a great result there is already gone after a pretty bad weekend here in Canada. A shame for them. Now we'll move on to Aston Martin. I guess we'll start quickly with Sebastian Vettel. I don't know why they pitted him so early. It was never really going to work out. Should have waited a long time to pit him. And I don't get why they were pitted that early, unless they were expecting it to be a lot more pit stops or a lot more tyre wear. I don't understand why they took such a unnecessary risk. Both Vettel, well, not Vettel, but Aston Martin and AlphaTauri, Vettel and Gasly respectively. I don't get it whatsoever. Vettel though still had good pace despite that, and was on the safety car restart in 9th place, but had no grip left to fight off Zhou, Stroll, or Ricciardo. So 12th is the best he could do. For Lance Stroll though, great performance by him. Obviously, stayed out for a while, held up a long train of cars behind him. Then he pitted a few laps before the safety car. Safety car then came out. That did cost him a bit, though, the safety car coming out, because obviously if he stayed out until then, would have lost a lot less track position and time. He did, though, on the medium, come back through pretty nicely, past Magnussen, Vettel, Ricciardo, to get into the points. A great performance by Stroll, and at least gives the home fans some sort of cheer as Stroll gets his 2nd points finish here in Canada. Obviously, the last time we raced here in 2019, he finished 9th, so good performance there by Stroll. And Aston Martin are now up to 8th in the championship, so at least they have that. And they're only 11 points behind AlphaTauri for 7th, so if they can bounce back at Silverstone, and I think they've got an upgrade coming at Silverstone. Obviously, they're based right next to the track, so you'd hope so. Then maybe Aston Martin can keep on pushing up the order. Thing is, though, with Sebastian Vettel, even though they made a mistake pitting him so early, with Stroll in 10th, I have to say that's pretty much the best they could have got from this Grand Prix in terms of a result. So they can't be that disappointed with the amount of points that they brought home, because obviously they had such a poor grid position, 16th and 17th. And then finally is Williams. Alex Albon drove very well today, and did very well as well to hold off Gasly and Norris behind him. Was in the points for a while and did a very good defensive job against Valtteri Bottas. In hindsight, they should have started him on the hard tyre, because if he did start on that tyre, he might, in the end, have nicked a point from this Grand Prix, because I think, his medium tyres went off very, very badly towards the end of his first stint. But great performance nonetheless. Nicholas Latifi, well, what else is there to say? Just needs to leave the grid, I think, at this point. Williams continue to not score any points. Well, they do have 3 points this season, but obviously been a few races now since their last points finish in Formula 1. Now, quickly, I'm going to try and find if I can find the race result graphic on Twitter, and then I'll come back to you guys in the chat. Keep your comments coming, by the way. And nope, still no results, unfortunately, I can post. But what I will do quickly is I'll read out the championship standings after this Canadian Grand Prix, and I'll go back to these pictures. There you go. So these are the official championship standings. Max Verstappen leads Sergio Perez now by 46 points. Charles Leclerc is 3rd on 49 points. Russell is still 4th on 111 points, and actually, outscored Leclerc today, and is only 15 points behind Leclerc, and only 18 points off 2nd is Russell. What a season he is having. Carlos Sainz is still 5th. Hamilton is now 6th and closing the gap to the cars ahead. And then Norris is 7th, Bottas 8th, Ocon 9th, Alonso now 10th, and then the rest of the driver standings, it's Gasly, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Vettel, Tsunoda, Zhou, Albon, Stroll, and then Schumacher, Hulkenberg, Latifi at the back. And then in the constructors standings, Red Bull are leading quite clearly on 304 points. Ferrari 2nd on 228 points. Mercedes 3rd on 188, so they're only 40 points behind the Mercedes in the championship. McLaren 4th on 65 points, Alpine 5th on 61. Like I said, Alpine very close now. Alfa Romeo 6th, 20 points clear of AlphaTauri 7th, Aston Martin now 8th, Haas 9th, and Williams are 10th. So those are your championship standings going into the British Grand Prix. Read out a couple comments here quick. Lab Gorilla says, where do you think Mercedes got their pace from? Is this because Ferrari had to reduce porpoising that Mercedes seems so much closer? No, I think it has more to do with, I think, the conditions which help Mercedes because they do have trouble firing their tyres up and getting them hot enough. And obviously in hot conditions, it's going to be less hard. Also, they do always have a better race car, Mercedes, than a qualifying car, as we've seen this season. And I think, yeah, all in all in the drive, they don't actually lose that much pace around here compared to the top teams as they did in Baku. So yeah, I think that's why they were a bit quicker today. And Vinster says the teams were able to bend the rules this weekend to reduce the bouncing. I mean, not necessarily, because if you're having to raise your car still in preparation for the directive, that's still costing the team's pace. Whatever they did was outside the regulations in some way, and they'll have to get it approved to continue with it. And can't see any other comments at the moment. So what I'm going to do, apparently Alonso was suffering with an ERS issue in the race, which I just saw. So, yeah, that's interesting. But, yeah, in a moment, I'm going to just get up my comments on screen. I'll do that in a second. And let me just get it up quickly. Right. So, let me show this on screen. So I'm going to try and go back through these comments of the last week. Obviously, this one I'm going to respond to because it's in Spanish. Cult personality, in my opinion, still a long shot. 2 to 3 back-to-back wins and picture can change. That's in response to me saying that how Ferrari have nearly cost Leclerc the title. That was obviously on Tuesday. Yeah. I think now we can say it's definitely over. I mean, even if Leclerc wins the next 3 races, if Verstappen finishes second in all of them, the gap is still going to be about 30 points. So, yeah. And I don't think Leclerc's going to win 3 races in a row at all for the rest of this season. Let's go Fernando. Skyman says, I hope for this role in regards to the technical directive, Mercedes will feel this the most in a negative way. That just shy Russell cried for active suspension. He now claims to be happy, but I think that as they lose even more than they already do, he will start crying again and harder than before. Other teams will now get an opportunity to move to more to the front, where others will drop down. Ferrari will lose, but they'll stay still with Red Bull. I think, yeah, it's just in regards. I think it's just commenting there in regards to what do you call it? To who will lose out, who won't, and yeah, I think the role that is going to come in at Silverstone is actually going to be, used, is a good thing. Petrolicious, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, says this is a good solution. Only the teams where this is a problem must change their setup. Someone says Verstappen's better. That's on an old video. By the way, this video where it says Verstappen versus Leclerc, who is better, that's from 2019. I can announce that that video will be updated. I'm going to do a new version of that, probably at the end of the season. So yeah, that'll be coming. This comment, probably a bit too long to read out, but in response to what I was talking about with Ferrari and Baku, they were saying they were not confident about my description of the strategy from Ferrari and Baku. And yeah, just describing the how it would have happened. But let me just read through it if I can. But after the engine failure, we cannot prove anything. But I think Ferrari was changing Leclerc's tyres very early in the race, lap 9 or 10. This is telling something as a two-stop strategy, hoping for another safety car maybe. The two Red Bulls kept out on track in a long time. Charles was not winning significant time on Max. It seems Checo destroyed his tyres much more than Max. After the pit stops, due to pit stop onto virtual safety car, 12 seconds ahead, but Max gaining on him. Checo also on hard tyres. And at the end of the race, Max mostly taking good care of his tyres. Would have had fresher tyres. Leclerc, I mean, to be honest, he says he's not confident in my description, but I think he's pretty much agreeing with him, or agreeing with me on what would have happened. I never said it would have been a race win for Leclerc, but yeah, it would have been close, and definitely was cost at least 18 points from that Grand Prix. Also, I had this comment a couple times, because I showed that graphic on that video about how, about how what the championship standings would look like if Leclerc had not been cost the win in Spain and Monaco and at least second in Baku. And I had it as Leclerc being 33 points ahead, I think, of Verstappen. And then people were a bit confused saying, but Verstappen had 2 DNFs though as well. I think they were confused. Eric and Petrolicus, I guess you could say his name is. I think they were confused by what I was actually trying to illustrate. What I was trying to prove was not what the championship would look like if the drivers were not hampered by their teams. It was purely to look at how much Ferrari have cost Leclerc, considering the 2 retirements Max has had. That's what that graphic was about. It wasn't about, this is what it would look like if things were fair for everyone. It was about illustrating the great position Ferrari have thrown away. So just want to clarify that. Also, yeah, plenty of people taking a piss out of my driver lineup prediction video. Which, yeah, you can kind of see the thumbnail there. Had Gasly in a Red Bull suit, Perez in a Ferrari one, and Sainz in a McLaren one. So you can, you can say what you want about my predictions, but at the time, I thought that was, well, I gave my reasons in those videos why I thought it could happen. Williams usually wants a bag of money for their seat, so I guess Piastri found financing. Every driver has financing, but I think they want someone who's at least competent in that car. Great duct tape skills by AlphaTauri, that's for the last Grand Prix. Sad for Yuki, and then yeah. By the way, that duct tape, it wasn't duct tape. It was like a special type of tape they have, I think, for motorsport. It wasn't just duct tape that you would have in your house. And I think this will be the final one I go through. Marco Catania, do you think at this point Ferrari should just focus on next year as they have no chance of the title now? And then for him says, I think so. I really think their design for philosophy is very limited compared to Red Bull Mercedes. Ronald says no, they shouldn't give up. And then points out that Max was running away with the championship last season, but then Lewis took him out and Bottas in Hungary. True, but Mercedes are a competent team, Ferrari are not, so that's why I don't agree with Ronald there. But at this point, yeah, I think Ferrari should not bother bringing any more upgrades to this car, because even if they do improve their car, they're not going to win the championship. It's over. So, yeah. But yeah, those are all the comments. And like I said, guys, if you have at any point this weekend, if you have put a comment in the live chat and I've not read it out, just comment on the same video where I've missed it out, and I will do this probably for the next Grand Prix. Go back through comments I've missed in the couple of weeks coming up. So yeah, I will get back to your comments. Don't worry about that. But we'll go back to this. And Right, so I think we'll come to the last bit of the stream now because it's what 22:10 my time, and obviously most of the people who watch my streams are in UK and Europe, and they're probably off to bed now or about to. So I'll quickly get into the last thing I was going to talk about, which is the content schedule coming up between now and let's say the end of the British Grand Prix weekend. So tomorrow, like I said, I'll be live with a more in-depth review of the Canadian Grand Prix. There's not going to be a ton to cover, I'm going to be honest. Even though it was a good Grand Prix, there wasn't an absolute ton really to, like, in terms of specific incidents to really look at. But I will still do a review of a couple things tomorrow night. So yeah, 8 p.m. UK time on the channel. Make sure to come along to that. And then maybe I'll upload a stream clip of, say, the main topic from that stream. We'll have to see. And then after that, so after tomorrow's stream, there will be no streams on the channel for about 10 days until Thursday, the 30th of June, which is the day before Friday practice at the British Grand Prix. And what's going to happen the next Grand Prix weekend is there will now be a change to the schedule in terms of the type of content I do for a Grand Prix weekend, at least for the next few races on the calendar. So yeah, British Grand Prix preview I'm going to do on Thursday the 30th of June. But from now on a Friday, I am going to stop doing Practice 1 and Practice 2 watch-alongs. Not period forever, but at least until like the North American races in October and the South American race of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in November as well. The reason that is because at the end of the day, guys, you have to understand the majority of my viewers are UK, Europe, and North America. That's my majority base. Obviously, I've got other people from, Africa, Asia, Australia, South America. Hello to you guys, by the way, if you are still watching. And obviously, you're all fantastic. But those are the majority of my viewers. And obviously, at European races, when Practice 1 and Practice 2 is taking place, you guys, the majority of you, are at work, school, college, university, whatever you want to call it, because it's, during the working day. Or if you're not, if you're saying North America, you're just waking up or even, on your way to work and working. So the reason I'm going to stop doing Practice 1 and Practice 2 watch-alongs until probably the North American races at the end of October is, because it just, I don't think it's quite fair on you guys who obviously can't catch the content because you're busy doing other things. And yeah, obviously the viewership on those streams isn't great because of that reason. So that's why I'm going to stop doing them. But there will still be content on a Friday. I am still going to be doing qualifying previews on a Friday night. And at the British Grand Prix, I will do a qualifying preview on Friday night at probably 6 p.m. UK time. I think I've decided that evening. So yeah, for the British Grand Prix, Thursday, the 30th of June, preview, Friday, the 1st of July. The only thing that'll be that day will be, a qualifying preview at 6 p.m. UK time, which will be about an hour after Practice 2 finishes. And then on Saturday will be Practice 3 watch-along, qualifying watch-along, and with the race preview, I'd imagine, will probably take place on Sunday at 12 p.m. UK time, because the race at Silverstone starts at 3 p.m. UK time. So, that's probably what's going to happen. But also, I am thinking of trialing a new streaming, not system, but just way of streaming, where instead of cutting off the streams and making new ones that I do very quickly after one has ended, I might just do one long stream with all of those different parts of the streams, the preview, then the watch along, then the reaction, all included in the same one. So for example, on a Sunday, obviously I do a preview, watch along, then a reaction. What I'm thinking of is including all three of them in the same stream, because as well it'll help the viewership of the stream, and it'll help, you know, keep people along for the whole experience. So that's what I'm thinking for the British Grand Prix. I'm not decided on it, but I am going to make a decision on that. And on the Thursday, the 30th of June, which is going to be like, you know, the day of my preview for Silverstone, I will announce my full schedule and announce what I've decided to do. But I can announce that, yeah, Practice 1 and Practice 2 watch-alongs are off the table, but not completely, and they will return at a later date. Also, for the Austrian Grand Prix, which is the second weekend of July, obviously we've got the return of the sprint race and qualifying. The normal qualifying's on a Friday. I will still cover that because it's qualifying. But yeah, for Practice 1 and Practice 2 on a Friday, I'm going to stop doing that until later in the season. But yeah, stream tomorrow at 8 PM UK time. Possible stream clip on Tuesday, and then after that, there won't be any stuff on the channel for 9 to 10 days. And then, yeah, Thursday the 30th of June, it'll be British Grand Prix preview time. And then remember, guys, in July, there are 4 races in 5 weekends. So even though there won't be any content really for the next week and a half after Monday, in July, there's going to be plenty of content coming your way. There really, really is. So, yeah, there is plenty coming up. And thank you guys, by the way, so many of you for coming to the streams this weekend. Bloody hell, that fucking sex bot does not know when to stop, does it? Hold on. No, I was going to try and remove them, but, well, let me try and remove them, actually. See what happens, unless I can't do it now. Might be able to. Not sure. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys for coming along to the streams this weekend. Great to have you along for what's been a great weekend in Canada. And yeah, make sure to join me tomorrow for the more in-depth review for this Grand Prix that happened. And yeah, make sure as well to join me for the British Grand Prix weekend at Silverstone, where I'm sure we'll have a great weekend of racing at one of the best tracks on the calendar. And hopefully we will see the return of Mercedes at that particular Grand Prix. But yeah, thank you guys for coming along. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for that content coming up. So at the bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Don't forget as well to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5 if you want to keep up with the content on this channel. And as well, don't forget to join the Discord server. There is a link below in the description for that piece of content. I'm just going to quickly rename the stream before I go, because this stream pretty much was the race watch along. Obviously, I did the reaction as well, but I'll just rename it. And there you go. So yeah, that's the stream, guys, and that is your Canadian Grand Prix weekend. And yeah, until tomorrow's review of the Canadian Grand Prix, and until the next Grand Prix on the calendar, the return to Silverstone for the 2022 British Grand Prix. It has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.